What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another David Rams live stream. Who have we got here already? We've got Veganism. What is going on? We've got Jesse, a couple others in here being a little quiet today, guys. What's going on? Get in the chat, start chatting. Let me know you're here. Let me know who's here. So today we've got an interesting schedule on the cards. We're going to take a look at part 2 of Danny Lifting Vegan Logic's debunk of the what I've learned nonsense, anti-vegan nonsense. So yeah, we're going to take another look at that. We did part 1 already. This is part 2. So it's the second part to all of the nonsense this guy came out with that Danny has been getting into. I've not seen Danny's response video, and I don't remember what the guy even said in the second part of this video. So that's going to be a good one. And also, guys, on top of that, time permitting, of course, but I think we're going to have enough time. I'm going to also take a look at a video by Brett Cooper from the Daily Wire. Do you know basically the one that everyone says is she's like Ben Shapiro's daughter or Ben Shapiro's sister or something like that? So basically, there is a video she's made about milk, about the dairy industry, and it's quite embarrassing. So I'm also going to take a look at that. We're also going to have a look at Earthling Ed's recent TV debate where I've not seen it, but apparently he was debating screaming tomatoes, like plants having feelings. Apparently that was happening. I've not seen the video, but I assume that's what he was brought on to debate, which is just mental that he was brought on TV to debate that. And then finally, we'll finish off with some comedy. There's a comedy video been made by Ryan Long, who is a comedian, and he's done a video mocking PETA, where he goes out on the street pretending to be a PETA activist, which well, we're going to react to it. We'll see what you think about it. I think it has some funny points, but yeah, it also has some points that we can say something about. So we got a lot going on here, guys. Let's dive in. Remember, as we go through today's reaction and these responses to these videos, you can pop up anytime on the screen by using the Streamlabs tip option, where you can get in the pinned comment there. Just send your comment through Streamlabs, or using the super chat option. You can do either of those with requests or questions or comments or anything, and it'll pop up, and I'll stop and we'll have a chat about whatever you've brought up. So with Danny's video, my plan today is the same as last time. Danny is a very scientific person. He gets deep into the data. He loves that. So what I'm going to try to do for myself and for you as well, but mostly for myself, is to try to take what he says and simplify it and make it more less scientific and more kind of simplified, basically. For one reason, to show that I've understood it, which helps me, so then I can go ahead and hopefully make a video myself, which I'm planning to do, that's going to be more for the average viewer, more easy to digest. And secondly, for any of you guys that aren't so scientifically minded, maybe this stuff goes over your head. So it's a double win, basically. Like, it's a win for me, it's a win for you. So that's why I do that. So that's what we're going to go for today when we look at Danny's video. And yes, I do have a new hat. We've got a new hat in the room, guys. It's about time. The setup looks a little cleaner now, doesn't it? Without the sun-damaged hat. But yeah, sweet. All right, then. Let's have a look at this video. What I've learned fails to debunk vegan diets again. Let's get into it.
Hey, what is going on, guys? So welcome to part 2 of my debunk of What I've Learned's video titled Vegan Diets Don't Work. Here's why. If you haven't seen part 1 of my response to his video, I highly recommend you watch it before watching this one, because I'll be referring to it a couple times here and there. However, you don't really need to watch it in order to understand how bad his video is upon finishing this video. So that's really just up to you. Before we start the actual debunk, there's 2 things I want to say. First off, I got to thank Beans once again for his just huge amount of help in developing the script for this video and doing some of the research with me, as well as Matthew Medor, Matthew Nagra, Nutrivore, who, by the way, has a much more comprehensive debunk on the way. Look out for that. And I also want to mention Dominic Beast from the East and they're all from Nutrivore's Discord server.
As Michael Pollan has argued in his book Defense of Food, we frequently fall victim to this concept of nutritionism, that we don't necessarily need whole foods, we just need their components. But certain supplements illustrate how it's a lot more complex than that.
So this part is a little confusing. It is true that we need specific components of whole foods and not whole foods per se. Nobody is falling victim to this concept if it is literally true. And even if we accepted the notion that certain supplements don't work, which to be clear, he has not demonstrated that thus far in this video, how would that show that it isn't specific nutrients that we need as opposed to whole foods? All it would show is that supplements aren't always good at getting people specific nutrients. Accepting this as true does not commit somebody to thinking that we need whole foods instead of nutrients.
According to a 2012 study, despite taking prenatal supplements, 58% of pregnant women had iron levels below normal.
So what's funny about the study that what I've learned is citing here is that the women also ate meat. If I wanted to, I could say, despite eating meat, 58% of pregnant women had iron levels below normal. Therefore, heme iron found in meat is not bioavailable. What I've learned also said that despite taking prenatal supplements, 58% of women had iron levels below normal. This is misleading considering that the study is on 19 pregnant women. This is not enough of a sample size to justify extrapolating this data onto the population of pregnant women taking prenatal supplements as a whole.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? Because he's using that study to try to show that supplements aren't good enough for the iron to give people the right amount of iron. But like Danny just said, that would also show, considering they're eating meat, that eating meat isn't a good enough way to get iron. And so, but that's what I've learned, guy. That's the argument he's making. He's trying to say vegan diets don't work, plant-based diets don't work, so eat a meat diet. These women were eating meat. So if you use his own logic against him here to say, well, okay, so if that study proves that iron supplements don't work, well, it also proves that meat doesn't work for iron. So what are you trying to say? That there's no way to get iron, right? Or is there some magical way that you know otherwise, right? Or maybe, just maybe he's saying, well, he's not saying this because he's saying plant-based diet he thinks plant-based diets don't work. But okay, then the only thing left, if it's animal-based iron doesn't work and supplemented iron doesn't work, then the only thing that's left is plant-based whole food iron. But then the video's against the plant-based diets. So who knows what the guy's trying to say at that point.
And here's something else. The study's objective was to better characterize placental iron transport through giving 19 pregnant women iron supplements. And if you don't know, placental iron transport is when iron is transported from the mother to the fetus across the placenta. This study did not seek to investigate the prevalence of iron deficiency among pregnant women who take prenatal supplements. So what about a study with a much larger sample size of 43,274 women whose goal is to determine the effect of iron supplementation on maternal anemia and iron deficiency? Well, here is a meta-analysis with this goal, and their findings were: supplementation reduces the risk of maternal anemia and iron deficiency in pregnancy, but the positive effect on other maternal and infant outcomes is less clear. Implementation of iron supplementation recommendations may produce heterogeneous results depending on the population's background risk for low birth weight and anemia, as well as the level of adherence to the intervention. Now,
so basically what this guy's done, he's taken a study that was done on 19 people, and he's used those results to say, hey, look, iron supplementation didn't help. When Danny just pointed out here, there's a video, sorry, not a video, there's a study that had, I think, what did he say? Something like 30,000 people, something like that. It was a meta-analysis, which is a far, far more powerful study, as in one study on 19 people versus a meta-analysis that looked at multiple studies and thousands of people. The meta-analysis is the one you want to look at. And maybe you can use the other study as like however, one study found this, but here's what these thousands of people, thousands or hundreds of studies over thousands of people found, and here's what this one study found. And then you could say, you know, this one's more powerful and you should trust this one more, but this one still is to be considered, right? That's how it should be represented. What this guy did, what I've learned did, he ignored the one that was more powerful, took the one that fit his agenda and pushed that out. Now, last time we did a reaction to all of this, I said that I was trying to be charitable to the guy, to this what I've learned, because I thought, okay, maybe he didn't write it himself. Maybe it was his team. Maybe he just got screwed over on some of these things. But I found out that that's all wrong, because he's actually engaging with people on Twitter and making an absolute fool of himself, trying to backtrack a little bit or trying to like justify himself. It turns out the guy seems to have done all of this himself. So yeah, I tried to be charitable. And I was until I saw his comments on Twitter. And now I think he's just a total idiot. He's just an absolute asshole who's just trying to shit on vegans for some reason, some personal agenda, or he's been sold by the carnivore crowd. Someone's made him feel guilty, so he's doing this shit. It seems to be personal. And you can see that by the fact that during his research, he will have come across the studies that Danny's citing, and he will have decided to ignore them and choose small studies with smaller samples because they prove his point. So, guy's a complete and utter dishonest prick, it seems.
Now, if you've seen part 1 of my debunk, I want you to also think about this. This incidence of what I've learned using low quality data to justify claims is very similar to what I covered in part 1, where he tried to lend credence to the notion that eating zero fiber can help resolve constipation. He cited a paper on 63 people with a load of limitations, rather than papers much more properly designed with sample sizes of 14,024, 3,327, and 15,000. In this case, in order to make the case that iron supplements may not sufficiently work with pregnant women, he cites a paper studying 19 pregnant people whose objective didn't even support his claim, rather than look at a paper with 43,274 women, which actually aimed to investigate his claim. And what's worse about all this is that he does this while trying to come across as this objective person who's just looking at the highest quality evidence to see what's true. He is not that person.
Choline.
Absolutely phenomenal, isn't it? To be this dishonest, to have this big of a channel, and to sit there looking down the lens of a camera and knowing you're full of shit, but trying to come off and kind of succeeding in convincing many people as coming off as wholesome, objective. Hey, I'm just out here to help. I'm just asking questions. I'm just out here to be a good person. I'm doing a service to the world. How do you think he believes his own bullshit, or do you think that he's doing this in a more sinister way where he like gets off on it? He knows he's chatting shit, and he knows when he's talking to the camera, like, oh, put the solemn face on, make them believe me. Or do you think he buys into it himself? What do you think, guys?
Is a critical nutrient for brain function, and one study estimates 90% of Americans aren't getting enough.
So, while it is true that choline is essential, and a study does estimate that 90% of Americans fall short of the adequate intake, it's important to read what the authors themselves say about the adequate intake value used in this paper. The paper says, current intakes cannot be deemed inadequate based upon the adequate intake value alone. Although adequate intakes may be useful in guiding individual dietary plans, by definition, they are established when evidence is insufficient to calculate an estimated average requirement. Therefore, it is not possible to conclusively assess the risk of inadequacy in a population. Future research will be critical for establishing an estimated average requirement to assess the risk for inadequacy within subgroups of the population. In other words, there is insufficient evidence to establish an estimated average requirement for choline. So for now, an adequate intake value is used instead, and that is what the 90% estimate claim is based on. So rather than let us know this detail, What I've Learned decides to represent the findings of the study as if it found that 90% of Americans are not meeting the average daily requirement for choline, when no such thing currently exists.
A 2019
That's insane, man. The amount of stuff that this guy purposefully leaves out. So just to simplify what Danny said, if I'm getting this right, the study that this guy's using for choline to show that most people aren't getting enough choline, the authors of the study said they can't confirm or deny whether people are actually getting enough or not. They had to use an estimate based on something else to kind of, it seems, just to estimate that, but they can't prove whether they are or aren't getting enough. For the sake of this study, they used some calculation for it that was not necessarily accurate. So basically, that undermines the point that this What I've Learned is trying to make here by 90% of people aren't getting enough. He's either not read the study, or he read the study, read that bit, and decided, meh, no one's going to bother reading up until that. No one's even going to bother to fact check me. And this is the problem, that when he puts these videos out, no one's going through and checking his facts. No one's going through and checking the studies. It took Danny, well, I don't know, probably like a week solid of research to get to this point. And then two 1-hour videos. Who the hell's going to put that much effort in to respond to a YouTube video? And when I say respond, maybe the people watching it won't even make a response. They won't write a response. They'll just have it in their head. They'll just look for the facts. You know, who's going to spend that much time on something that they're just going to do it for themselves and maybe, you know, not make a video about it or not make a post about it or something? No one's going to do that. Hardly anyone is going to actually go through and spend 2 weeks learning all this stuff and trying to, you know, fact check this guy. So it's wild that this can be done, isn't it? It's disappointing and sad that not enough people are going to be able to see through this guy's shit, and most will just believe it because of how much work it takes to debunk him, because it takes hours to go and find all this shit out that Danny's found out.
Study found choline from egg yolks to be far better absorbed than choline from the common supplement choline bitartrate. Just 150 calories of egg yolk will give you over 100% of your requirement.
So choline absorption from eggs is high. I'm not going to argue with that. But as I always say on this channel, we have to actually look at health outcomes rather than just, get scared about the potential negative health effects of not consuming a certain food. So let's look at some health outcomes. It should be understood that one of the main concerns with choline deficiency is non-alcoholic liver disease. With this info, if low choline intake is an issue for vegans, we would expect to see a positive correlation between higher adherence to plant-based diets and non-alcoholic liver disease, and an inverse correlation between consumption of animal foods and non-alcoholic liver disease. So let's look at some outcomes. This paper found that higher adherence to plant-based diets, especially healthful plant-based diets, is associated with a lower likelihood of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And this paper had similar findings. And here's a paper looking at the association between 4 different dietary patterns and risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The 4 dietary patterns were: number 1, traditional Chinese; number 2, animal food; number 3, grains, vegetables; and number 4, high salt. Also understand that the animal food dietary pattern contained high consumption of animal foods, including eggs. And straight from the discussion, further analysis showed that food consumption in the animal food dietary pattern was associated with an increased risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the grains vegetables dietary pattern was associated with a decreased risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And just one more study, but with a smaller sample size, which I guess doesn't really matter for what I've learned because he cites studies with very small sample sizes as well. This pilot study with 26 non-alcoholic fatty liver disease patients who consumed a vegan diet for 6 months had 20 of them normalize their liver function tests independently of their improvements in body weight.
One study found that
Mad. So yeah, what Danny's trying to do there is he's trying to take what this guy claims and look at it in real life, in a real life scenario. Okay, so this guy's claiming that the vegan plant-based diet will be all deficient in choline. Why is that a problem? Well, because it'll give us this liver disease. Okay, cool. So Danny's gone and shown, all right then, are vegans getting more liver disease? No, it's the opposite, actually. Some people are going plant-based to get rid of liver disease. Okay, cool. So then what's this guy's point then? I mean, surely if he was doing research on choline and found some really, really nasty negative side effects that vegans were getting because of choline, for not getting enough choline, then he would have shown that, wouldn't he? He would have gone, hey, and look, here's some studies that show that there's actually a big prevalence of this liver disease in the plant-based dieters. But the fact is, he's probably gone to look for that, found that the plant-based diet's used to treat people with liver disease or has been recommended as for people with liver disease, and that this other studies have shown it's actually the animal eaters that get more liver disease. And then he's probably gone, right, well, that doesn't fit, but no one's going to go and look up that study anyway, so I'll just say the bit about choline and we'll get over it. Guy's a complete and utter moron. Moron's not even the right word, because moron is when someone acts, dumb. In his case, he's smart enough to leave it out. It's worse. It's a dishonest moron. Terrible that he's done that.
That while dietary calcium reduced the risk of heart attack, calcium supplements increased the risk. Calcium can be hard for vegans to get enough of without supplementation.
So when I go back to what I've learned Substack for this claim, there's no source for it. But anyway, this paper found a 14th to what I've learned Substack for this claim.
There's no source
Calcium
for this
can
claim.
be hard for vegans to get enough of without supplementation.
So when I go back to what I've learned Substack for this claim, there's no source for it. But
there's no source for the claim that he made to show that calcium supplements increase the risk of a heart attack. How could he make that claim without a source? That is phenomenal. How? I mean, that is the biggest claim I think he's made in the whole video, that a calcium supplement will give you a heart attack, more likely give you a heart attack than dietary calcium will. That is absolutely wild. There has to be a source for that. I hope Danny's pushed him on Twitter for that source, because that is mental.
But anyway, this paper found a 14% reduction in risk for cardiovascular disease mortality when you go from less than 1 serving of tofu per month to more than 1 serving of tofu per week. And similar reductions were found for soy milk. Both of these foods either contain calcium fortification or have added calcium. What I've learned follows his basis claim up with saying that getting calcium on a vegan diet is difficult without supplementation. Now let's think about this for a second. Even if I accepted this as true, why does it matter? Let's pretend there was no such thing as naturally occurring calcium from plant foods and that vegans had to rely on fortified soy milks and other vegan products to get sufficient calcium. Why would I care? This is pretty much true about B12, and I accept accept that we should supplement. Of course, what I've learned would say that I should care because of the paper he didn't cite, which said that calcium supplements increase risk of a heart attack. Something else you should know is that 250 grams of extra firm tofu gets you 937 milligrams of calcium. How is it apparently hard for vegans to get enough calcium without supplements when you take this into account? And to be clear, tofu is not supplemented with calcium. Calcium is added in the process of creating tofu because calcium is used for the coagulation process needed to create it. This is similar to how hard cheese gains K2 as a result of the fermentation process, which, by the way, he did mention hard cheese earlier as a source of K2. And remember earlier in part 1 where he was saying that people are eating carnivorous diets without any deficiencies? Well, here's the calcium intake from a full carnivore diet where people are only getting 18.5% of their RDA for calcium using 1,000 milligrams as the RDA. So let's look at actual data as opposed to just making claims without data when it comes to supplemental calcium and health outcomes. This systematic review and meta-analysis of observational studies found that supplemental calcium intake was associated with a decreased risk of all-cause mortality.
This 2020 study found vegans had weaker bones and a 43% higher risk for fractures.
Moved on. Okay. So yeah, to summarize that point and what I've understood here, what I've actually learned from Lifting Vegan Logic from Danny, and not from what I've learned, is that once again, the guy's absolutely full of shit. Danny's actually provided data to show that people who've supplemented calcium have better health outcomes. And as he said, there's nothing, supplements are not evil. It's why I don't get it why people think supplementation is bad. This guy's trying to say it causes you to have a heart attack, but we know he's full of shit, right? It's more than likely true that calcium supplements do not increase your risk of having a heart attack. It's probably not true, right? Supplements, vitamin supplements. I mean, I can't imagine how would that actually work? Like what would be causing that? What would cause, for example, a B12 supplement to give you a higher risk of some kind of health event versus I don't know, eating something that's fortified with B12? What would the mechanism have to be? It's a crazy, extraordinary claim that would require some seriously extraordinary evidence to prove that this was exactly what was causing this increase of risk of heart attack. But as it happens, the guy's chatting absolute shit. There's nothing wrong with supplements. Supplements are the technological advancement that allows us to live faster, more efficient lives, and just be healthy. Even though we're more busy than ever, we've got more stuff than ever that we can do, more possibilities than ever, and a lot of us have travel, do things, want to be busy all the time, want to live life to the fullest. So all the supplements do is help us with that, and in the vegan case, also helps us to not abuse animals with like the B12, for example. In other cases, it just helps you when you're having a particularly busy time, or you're just a very busy person altogether. You can supplement some stuff rather than worrying about it. I mean, it's just technological advancement, same as how you now use a mobile phone instead of a dial phone, same as you use the Wi-Fi internet broadband instead of dial-up internet, a laptop instead of a notepad with a pen. Just we keep on progressing so our lives are more convenient. Supplements are just a part of that. I don't understand why people go hell for leather trying to prove that they're somehow evil or gonna kill us. This guy is next level ridiculous.
Found that supplemental calcium intake was associated with a decreased risk of all-cause mortality.
This 2020 study found vegans had weaker bones and a 43% higher risk for fractures than omnivores.
All right, guys, so there are so many issues with this paper. I've covered some of the main ones on my channel before, and I'm going to play that now. But understand that Dr. Avi has covered the study in even more depth. I strongly recommend you watch it later if you have the time. I'll have it linked in the description. Now, first off, there was zero consideration and therefore adjustment for vitamin D intake, which is obviously important to consider because low vitamin D intake is a strong risk factor for poor bone health. Secondly, the authors were not too transparent about what statistical tests they ran when adjusting for confounding factors, not even in the supplementary material of the paper. Now, we can infer by the way in which the authors describe particular categories of confounders that that they used a stratification-based adjustment. Stratification just means the arrangement or classification of something into different groups. So an example of doing this in this paper could be taking, say, all the vegans and meat eaters with a BMI of 25. So you have a group of vegans with a BMI of 25 and a group of meat eaters with a BMI of 25. You do this so you don't have BMI vary between the two groups. You then calculate the relative risk of having, say, bone fractures between the two groups. This would be an example of a stratification-based adjustment when trying to adjust for BMI between the meat-eating group and the vegan group. So one of the main issues with this paper is that they assume that the relationship between BMI and bone fracture risk is a linear one. This mistake was also made in regards to calcium intake and bone fracture risk. Both of these relationships are not linear. This led to a portion of the adjustment being on levels of BMI and calcium intake where we know that risk does not go up. So just pertaining to BMI and fracture risk, here's an example from Avi of a stratification-based adjustment in different areas that would have been more sensible to do. Oh, and here's some health outcomes of the vegans in that Oxford cohort from the previous study he just touched on about, bone mineral density, which what I've learned conveniently decided to leave out. There was a 19% lower risk of all cancers combined in vegans. There was lower ischemic heart disease, diverticular diseases, and cataracts.
I'm not saying all supplements.
I have to be honest with you guys. That was hardcore, and I did not track. I did not follow that whatsoever. We could watch it again. Or I think what the more sensible thing would be to, I don't know, maybe I'll chat with Danny and we'll come back to this another time. When I do my own video, try to understand what he was saying there. But the general gist that I got without fully understanding what was said was that the method they used to extrapolate data from, or like to make conclusions from the data they had, didn't make sense. It wasn't accurate enough. It didn't factor in some things. So they did their own version of it, or him and Avi did, and that was more accurate and made more sense, and it came out better, i.e. their results were inaccurate because of this, and the results that the vegans looked at and recalculated were more accurate and ended up being better. Basically, is what I'm getting from it. But it was a lot of, oh goodness, it was too intense for me, too academic for me to follow that one. But I'll watch it a couple more times another time, and if any of you want to understand it further, if you didn't get it yourself, I don't know, drop me an email or something, and I'll let you know when I've picked it apart. Let's get back to the video.
Supplements are just bad. They indeed have been found to help people reach the appropriate intake of certain nutrients. I take some specific supplements myself. The point is there can be issues with relying on supplements.
When what I've learned says that the point he's trying to make is that, solely relying on supplements could be bad, he's saying this as though he has demonstrated this in his video. But the fact is that he hasn't. As you saw in part 1 of my response to him, he tried to see if B12 supplements work as well as animal foods by looking at 2 horrible papers, one of which included a population of vegans where 81% weren't supplementing, and a second study where the authors didn't adequately assess supplement intake. For iron supplements in pregnant women, he cited a study on 19 pregnant women with the goal of assessing better characterizing placental iron transport through giving 19 pregnant women iron supplements. And for calcium supplements, he just made a claim without a source. You can't just say, quote, the point is there could be issues with relying on supplements when you haven't sufficiently demonstrated what the problems with doing so are.
Let's rewind back to 1932.
Yeah, he's kind of glossed over the fact that he's not actually been able to express or to show us why supplements are a problem. He's just kept on using bad data and, uncited claims to tell us that we shouldn't take supplements. But there's no evidence. The evidence out there that actually makes sense is the evidence that Danny's put up that shows that supplements have been linked with good health outcomes. Not all this scaremongering that this other guy's coming out with.
Dr. Francis Pottinger had been trying to formulate a healthy diet for his laboratory cats. He assumed he had all the components necessary for a proper cat diet: raw milk, cod liver, and cooked meat and organs. Yet, for some reason, his cats seemed to suffer from nutrient deficiencies. At some point, he had so many cats that he had to cut corners. He started giving some cats their meat raw. Within a few months, though, these raw meat-fed cats and their kittens were clearly healthier than the cooked meat-fed cats and kittens.
This is a raw meat animal with the full, round face. Notice the firm gingiva, the normal coloring tones, the beautiful broad mouth. A later examination of the skull showed a firmly developed zygomatic arch.
This prompted Pottinger to conduct a 10-year study to puzzle out the effect of cooked versus raw meat on hundreds of cats. He found that the cooked meat cats consistently had health problems, but the problems were even worse for their kittens.
The head has begun to flatten and is actually smaller than the comparable raw meat cat. The zygomatic arch is not completed. The nasal development is somewhat irregular. Dental deterioration was also common.
Their kittens were born underweight, with brittle bones. Their teeth were crooked and crowded. They had allergies. Then, all these problems were even worse for their kittens.
Pronounced exhaustion was a typical observation among the third generation of cooked meat kittens. The skull is considerably smaller. The bones are paper thin and soft like sponge rubber.
In fact, the third generation of these cats didn't survive more than 6 months.
The cooked meat cats were unable to successfully reproduce after the third generation.
So the thing is, initially, the deficient cat diet seemed not too terrible. Sure, the first cats had some problems, but the bigger problems started to appear in the kittens. Then the full picture of just how inappropriate this diet was appeared a generation later. By the way, there was some leeway. If the diet was at least 50% raw, then the cats developed well. But the point is not to say that we need to eat raw meat. We're not cats. The point is, it's not about what's natural. It's about track record. It's easy to observe the effect of a diet in cats quite quickly. In just 10 years, Pottinger got a grasp for the track record for these 2 cat diets. With humans, it takes far longer to see the generational impact of a diet. But whatever we've been eating the past couple decades already has a pretty bad track record. Like the cats, some markers of our health seems to be worse with each generation. Something about our modern environment is leading to all kinds of problems. Dr. Sandra Kahn and Paul Ehrlich have written a book called Jaws, The Hidden Epidemic, about the epidemic of small dental arches leading to crooked teeth and constricted airways. This then leads to breathing problems like sleep apnea that take a huge toll on health. There's been a tripling in peanut allergies. Prevalence of ADHD has steadily increased over the past 20 years. Incidence of depression in 12 to 25-year-olds has more than doubled since 2008.
How does anything he just said lend credence to the notion that vegan diets don't work?
This is, I can't even wrap my head around the levels of absolute nonsense in that whole segment. See, like before Danny reacts, let me just say what my initial thoughts are here. So he looks at this stuff with cats. Cats, where they're in the same environment for 10 years, nothing changes apart from their diets. And this guy basically tortured cats by feeding them cooked meat, which I mean, as far as I understand, for any carnivore animal, I don't think they can do well with cooked meat. As far as I understand, they eat raw meat. That's how they get how they need to eat, isn't it? Right? Maybe some of them can eat cooked flesh, but as far as I'm aware, carnivore animals eat raw flesh, right? So he tortures the cats with an inefficient diet and then sees them suffer and marks that down. Okay, cats suffer if they eat cooked flesh. They don't suffer, and they do better if they eat raw flesh. And this is a study where it's him and these cats, and they're in one place, right? Nothing else changes, I assume. And he compares that with people, humans, from 2008 to now, showing that, oh, but look, see, it takes us longer to figure these things out, and something's clearly going wrong because people are fatter with more depression and more ADHD and da, 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 da. And he doesn't think for a second, at least not as far as we know so far, that all this could possibly be down to the changing environment that humans are in, i.e., most humans now, and for quite a while, spend 90% of their day sat on their arse. Now more than ever, especially after the pandemic, where people realized, or they didn't realize, they got this stupid idea that working from home and sitting on your ass all day is great. Oh, isn't it awesome? I could just sit at home in my pajamas, eating shit all day, and do all the work from home. I don't even need to leave the house. I've got my Netflix. I've got my Amazon Prime delivering all my shit. I've got Tesco delivering my food to the door, my shopping, my groceries. I've got the local takeaways. McDonald's delivers. Burger King delivers. Subway delivers. There's delivery companies that will go to practically any restaurant, pick up whatever you want, bring it to your door. Oh no, none of that could be causing people to get fatter. No. Oh, and the explosion of TikTok reels, shorts. No, that's not contributing to people having ADHD-like symptoms. No. Oh, no. What about all of the massive online pressure of the youth of today to constantly being exposed to other people who are doing amazing things and wonderful things, and then also being exposed to the absolute dreads of society, the lowest shit of the low, constant just horrors and nightmares going on in the world, people dying in natural disasters, people getting shot up somewhere, massive online dramas, cancel campaigns, the culture war. No, all of this shit combined, seeing someone who's been airbrushed and super fit, and you're not going to be like that, and then scrolling one down and seeing someone get shot in the face or a fight, which, by the way, viral fights are all over. No, this isn't going to cause people to feel doomed and depressed, is it? And all the others. And then what you want to keep? Do you want me to keep going on what stuff could be depressing people? If you're in the progressive side of politics, you'll be getting depressed by all of the climate emergency stuff. People telling you that the world's going to end. Greta Thunberg tweeting out, then deleting tweets saying that in 5 years, if we don't sort it out, humanity's doomed and we're going to get wiped out. No, that couldn't possibly be causing a whole generation of young people to be depressed and nihilistic about the future. No, definitely not. No. And all pandemic and all that stuff. No. Lockdowns and people terrified, people who lost family members because of the being locked down, while politicians were free to travel around and have parties. No, none of this is contributing to a massive influx, massive rising levels of depression and obesity. No. It's only specifically what people are eating. That's it, right? That's the only thing that could be causing all these things. Yeah, definitely. Wild.
It's clear he is trying to illustrate through his cat story that data on the short term isn't necessarily going to inform us about long-term and generational outcomes from a specific diet. He then goes on to list things that have gone up over time, but we all know we can't attribute this to veganism because of how small the vegan population is. So while I understand the kind of point he's trying to make here, I fail to see how any of this supports the claim that vegan diets don't work. Perhaps he will provide health outcome data demonstrating that vegan diets cause generational issues and that therefore outcome data on vegans today should be viewed more cautiously. And yeah, he doesn't. Also, how desperate do you have to be to grasp at straws that you have to rely on cat studies?
But when it comes to diets, we know of one that has a good track record. Maybe you've heard of the term diseases of civilization, which refers to heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, and so on. Anthropologists could tell you that before agriculture came along, hunter-gatherers very rarely had any of these afflictions that are so common today. They also had robust skeletons and broad faces that allowed for straight, cavity-free teeth.
Yeah, when did they die? What age did they die at? That's what I'd like to know.
If the dangers of living outdoors without the aid of modern medical care didn't kill them, they lived quite long and without chronic disease. As the name hunter-gatherer...
I want to know, what does quite long mean? Let's hear that. Because we know the answer. The answer is something like 40 if they were lucky, 35, 40. So, why not tell us the number? Well, because you're a dishonest prick. That's what it is.
Would suggest all parts of fish and animals were very valued in their diet. In the late 1800s, Plains Indians were the tallest people in the world. And according to an anthropologist at Ohio State University, they had a remarkable record of nutritional and health success. They ate tons of wild game and bison and preserved what they couldn't fit in their stomachs as jerky or pemmican. They would even dry out bison stomachs and fill them with blood to drink when they were thirsty. While it does sound gross, they may have used it to hydrate because blood would provide electrolytes.
So what I've learned seems to be unaware of concepts like survivorship bias, which I've covered on my channel multiple times. Survivorship bias is a type of selection bias that can occur when those who did not survive a selection event or process are overlooked in favor of those who did survive. Here is Nutrivore putting this issue very well in an article he wrote on the topic. Many paleo diet advocates claim that hunter-gatherer diets optimally promote the long-term health of human beings. There are typically two primary justifications for this claim. Firstly, the fact that hunter-gatherer populations typically appear to be robustly healthy, and secondly, the fact that humans evolved eating these types of diets. While these are technically statements of fact, I find myself forced to take a page out of the paleo dieters' playbook as I remind them that correlation doesn't equal causation, so let's dig into why their reasoning is flawed. Firstly, let me hit you with a thought experiment for a moment. Do you think that the elderly people within a given population would appear either more healthy or less healthy if that population never had access to modern medical technology? Think about this for a moment. You may understandably intuit that their health would probably be worse, correct? But that probably isn't what would happen. They would probably appear healthier, and I'll explain why. If a population never had access to modern medical technology, one of the things you couldn't reliably do is save sick or injured children. No matter what culture you observe, a sizable proportion of children will develop infectious illnesses. These illnesses, like bacterial or viral infections, are generally mundane by modern standards. However, without modern medicine, many children who develop these types of illnesses would likely not survive them. Those who are prone to illness likely do not have the same chances of survival as those who are less prone to illness. As such, why wouldn't the elderly in this hypothetical population present with more robust health as a result? Without medical intervention, the environment is essentially selecting for the fittest possible individuals in our hypothetical population. This would likely generate the appearance of more robust health in the elderly. Consider this carefully for a moment. If you weed out all of the weaker people, of course the remaining population is going to appear stronger. This presents a significant problem for paleo diet advocates who choose to cite the robust health of hunter-gatherer populations as a justification for the paleo diet, or as a justification for recommending the diet to others. Most paleo dieters do seem to be aware of the environmental adversity faced by hunter-gatherer populations, but they often don't seem to appreciate how this also produces significant changes for their narrative. For example, if you remind a paleo dieter that hunter-gatherers typically had an average life expectancy of around 30 years, they will often immediately retort by stating that those estimates are confounded by infant and child mortality. But therein lies the problem. They can't have it both ways. A paleo diet advocate cannot use that argument without tacitly admitting that infant and child mortality is typically enormously high among hunter-gatherer populations, which it most certainly is. Approximately 26.8% of infants and 48.8% of prepubescent children die in hunter-gatherer populations. With such a high proportion of children dying, how could it be the case that the apparent health of elderly hunter-gatherers is not colored by this? Remember, hunter-gatherer populations likely appear healthier because the least resilient members of those populations are already dead. Paleo diet advocates cannot admit that hunter-gatherer populations had high rates of infant and child mortality without also admitting that the resulting population is a heavily biased sample. This type of confounding is known as survivorship bias. Basically, survivorship bias is a type of selection bias that can occur when those who do not survive a selection event or process are overlooked in favor of those who did survive. For example, let's say we were trying to construct better body armor for soldiers to wear in combat. Perhaps we might conduct a study of soldiers who return from battle. We could collect bullet wound distribution pattern data to help ascertain where soldiers were most likely to get shot. However, as we see in the graphic above, this sort of analysis would exclude all those who were shot and did not survive. It would also overlook the sorts of bullet wound distribution patterns that tended to lead to death, which would actually have given us a significantly clearer picture of how we might construct better body armor. Likewise, when paleo diet advocates claim that we should eat like hunter-gatherers because hunter-gatherers are robustly healthy, they're not appreciating how survivorship bias is confounding their appraisal of hunter-gatherer health. They are essentially overlooking the other 50% of the hunter-gatherer population that didn't survive. For this reason, it is dubious to use the apparent good health of hunter-gatherers as the basis for the assumption that their diets are appropriate for modern humans. Until paleo diet advocates can figure out a way to explain why survivorship bias would not be confounding in an evaluation of hunter-gatherer health, they cannot rely on the apparent good health of hunter-gatherer populations to determine the applicability of hunter-gatherer diets to modern humans. In reality, the degree to which hunter-gatherer diets are appropriate for modern health remains unclear.
The anti-meat push has gotten so strong.
So yeah, what I understood from all of that was a really good it's an interesting point about the survivorship bias thing, that they're looking at the results of survival of the fittest to the point where most of those hunter-gatherer communities will have died. So if what you're advocating for is, okay, yeah, let's live like these people, eat like these people, and behave like these people, you also have to accept the fact that if you want everyone to have kids, they're probably going to die, most of them, and most of your family will die early as well. And the only ones that'll survive will be the strongest. And that's what we did away with a long time ago. That's why we have the population that we have now. That's why we have the communities that we have now. That's why you're able to have a family that can live relatively healthily until, quite a long time. You won't have to, most people won't have to say goodbye to a friend or family member at the age of, 28, 29. Whereas in these communities and the way they live, that's normal. That's actually an average. Like they said, the average age is actually 30. So you pick and choose, don't you? And I don't think many people would choose to risk their life and the lives of all their family for the sake of being more in touch with nature or something like that, which is the claim, which is just it's a very silly way of looking at things. I think I saw this interview recently of there was this comedian who went and spent some time with one of these hunter-gatherer peoples, and they were drinking blood and all this different kind of stuff. And he was talking about it, like romanticizing it. It's like, man, it's like what we've just said here, that you're romanticizing an old way of living where people died of the flu or something mild or an infection. You get a cut. You could die from a cut. Why are you romanticizing that? Like, yes, they still live like that. That's what they do. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just a fact. It's neutral. But the way this guy was speaking about it was like, oh yeah, it was so amazing. It was so impressive. It's like, what's impressive about that, dude? It's only impressive because of how the world we live in, a lot of people find to be just, detached from nature and stuff. So they romanticize nature. But why? Nature is death. Nature is dying from preventable disease. The world of the forest, the wild, wants you dead. Bacteria and viruses and other animals, they want you dead. There's like a famous quote, like nature wants, something like, nature wants 3 out of 5 of your children to die in childbirth or to die before the age of 4. The only reason they don't is medical advancement and modern science. So it's like, why are you looking at nature and say, oh yeah, that's what we want? What? It wants you dead. It wants you and your entire family dead. Stop romanticizing it. Stop looking at it like hunter-gatherers and stuff. Like, it's wild. Stop it. It makes no sense.
Strong that, as investigative journalist Nina Teichels reveals, a Tufts University ranking system bogusly ranks Reese's peanut butter cups as healthier than eggs, cheese, or ground beef. And lightly salted potato chips have twice the score of ground beef, and chocolate-covered almonds have 3 times the score and are in the to be encouraged category.
All right, so to start, what I've learned is citing Nina Teichels as a source, and she is not very trustworthy.
On the rare occasion when she's asked, what evidence do you have that meat is healthy, she doesn't seem to have a compelling script.
Any evidence that you could cite that...
Oh, thank you so much, Sonny Pattinson, for the super chat, mate. It says, hi, David. Love your work. What was it like living in India? I bet the vegan food was awesome. Yes. Okay, so living in India was... the vegan food, I was just thinking, that's why I said yes. But it was cool. Wasn't so nice during the lockdown because, well, we were lucky that we were in a place that wasn't so bad during lockdown, but in general, it wasn't nice to be locked down in a foreign country and very hot as well, and like, to not be able to it was very scary, but they shut all the airports and stuff. But apart from that, I had a great time living in India. I met lots of incredible people, met even more incredible animals, tons of cows. Oh my God, the cows over there are just amazing. It's a real shame about how many of them there are because they're breeding them and then they kick them out from the dairy farms when they don't want to deal with them anymore. They kick all the males to the street or if they can't kill them and stuff. But it was great to hang out with them at least and have some moments with them while we were there and made a lot of cool cow friends and dog friends by the street dogs and the street cows. It was really nice. And the food was pretty good. Most restaurants have they have veggie restaurants and you just specify no ghee, no cream, no dairy products. And they make some banging food. And surprisingly, not that spicy. People think India makes spicy food. They do, but it's not. It's spicy as in there's lots of spices in it. It's not hot spicy most of the time. In some parts of the country it is, but in I'd say like 80% of the country, they don't really like super, super hot spicy food. That's just what the rest of the world thinks that Indian food is. The Western world has turned it into, yeah, this Indian food's going to kick your ass. It's going to be so hot. That's just not true. In India, it's tasty and very strong flavor and smell, but just because of spices, but not chili. They don't just pile chili and everything like people think. So the food was awesome, yeah. Thanks, good question. Thank you for that. And you can check out my video on this. I've got a video, just put in David Ram's Vegan India, and I've got a video all about what I did there and the experience and the people I met and the food and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice video. So go check that out. Thanks for the question. Keep it up, guys. Send me some super chats. Send me some tips with what you want to ask, what you want to chat about. I saw some of you wanted me to some debate someone or something like that. That's yeah, that can be on the cards if today, I suppose. I don't know if somebody's going to email me and they want to come on and chat some shit. I suppose we could do that. But I saw something about an email, but I don't have any email from anyone. So yeah, most likely this person's a bitch. So yeah, well, maybe that won't be happening today, but we'll see.
That meat diets are healthier than plant-based diets.
The clinical trials on meat specifically are, there's 2 systematic reviews of clinical trials on meat that I know of that show that cardiovascular outcomes are improved. One of them looked at 0.5 ounces or servings of meat per day and showed increased benefits, cardiovascular benefits for eating the meat versus not eating the meat. And there is one other review on cardiovascular outcomes that also showed that meat was beneficial, looked better for cardiovascular outcomes.
When asked for evidence, she just says, yeah, these 2 systematic reviews, I'm not going to give you the name of them, but yeah, they exist. Yeah, for sure. But aside from how untrustworthy she is, when it comes to this chart, what I've learned is just misinterpreting the purpose of the Tufts University ranking system. Many of the pro-meat community, Joe Rogan included, share this misinterpretation when charts like this started spreading. Here is Matthew Nagra explaining how ridiculous this misinterpretation is in depth.
Joe Rogan is at it again. He recently shared this graph from a blog article by a meat delivery company suggesting that the Food Compass scoring system developed by researchers at Tufts University is recommending eating Lucky Charms cereal over beef. Well, that's not exactly true. The Food Compass scored over 8,000 foods based on 9 domains. These include the ratio of certain nutrients like saturated and unsaturated fats, the vitamin and mineral content, types of processing, food-based ingredients, additives, amounts of protein and fiber, amounts of specific types of fatty acids, and phytochemical content. However, based on the graph that Joe shared, this would score Lucky Charms higher than ground beef. Well, here's the issue. The chart isn't even from the Food Compass publication. It's from a response article to the Compass by authors who actually misinterpreted how it's meant to be used, and they just selected a bunch of values and threw them on a chart. In fact, here's one of the authors saying that's what they did. The Food Compass is meant to score foods within a given category. So within the category of fruits, whole fruits score very high, fruity desserts score very low. In the meat category, salmon scores very high, but hot dogs score very low. And in the dessert category, chocolate-covered almonds are scoring at the top, and pastries and churros are sitting at the bottom. So it is not suggesting that Lucky Charms are an alternative to beef. They're in 2 completely different categories. And amongst 50,000 Americans in the NHANES cohort, those with higher overall scores had a 24% higher odds of optimal cardiometabolic risk factors and a 7% lower risk of death due to all causes. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good.
And check this out.
That's hilarious that this guy did that. Oh man, how can he be so fucking... So he should...
Peanut butter cups.
So he shares this.
As healthier than eggs, cheese, or ground beef.
With that, he shares this whole
and
thing.
Lightly salted potato chips have twice the score of ground beef, and chocolate-covered almonds have 3 times the score and are in the to be encouraged category.
That's hilarious. So basically, he's sharing this in his video, right? As a, this is, they think that this is healthy, which, I was looking at it thinking, that obviously there's something off here because, hold up. Let's get back to where the full thing pops up. So you can see, right? It's got chocolate covered almonds at the top as like, that's the healthiest thing. And it's got like sugared pecans, popcorn, peanut bars, potato chips, like up at like to be encouraged healthy items. As anyone with a brain in your head, you'd look at this and say that this isn't right? There's something off here. This clearly, this is a university thing, right? They can't be that stupid to put this out and be saying chocolate-covered almonds are healthy. There's no way a university that has anything to do with nutrition and people trained on nutrition would say that. They wouldn't do it, right? They wouldn't do it. So then what happened then? Well, what I've learned, decided I'm not going to look into what happened. I'm going to make a cool infographic with the little bars. Oh, I'm just going to, Then I'm going to say, look how crazy this is. This guy's supposed to be putting himself out. I'm so objective. I'm so intelligent and educated. I've done my research for this video. Well, why didn't you find out that what Dr. Matthew Nagra said, that no, this food compass, this thing that they've used to calculate this, is supposed to be for each individual category of food. Like they said, for like candy or for nuts or for whatever. There's different categories, and then you apply the compass to see which in that category is healthiest and the least healthy. How did the guy, what I've learned, how did he not realize this in the preparation for his big, grand, impressive video full of amazing data? I keep repeating myself over these two videos and saying, how did he not realize? How did he not realize? And then I realize the reason that he probably did realize, he's just choosing not to. He's choosing not to be honest because he has an agenda and because he wants to shit on vegans. And if it's not that, then it's the fact that he's a moron. So it's a lose-lose. Either you're an idiot for not doing your proper research and thinking this is what this graph was saying. You thought this graph was real, so you're an idiot. Or on the flip side of that, you are dishonest and an asshole. So it really is, at this point, a lose-lose for this guy. And embarrassing as well. I just wish more people would see this. Let's go back to where we were. I think we were here.
Yeah, these two systematic for these Shia diversity ranking system. Many of them.
No, we were more forward.
Seeing food-based ingredients
Almost there.
and phytoplankton ground. It's from, and they
Come on, let's go back to where we were. Let's get back to where we were. Hurry up. Here we go.
Food Compass out straight from their website. Food Compass also includes many packaged and branded foods, so you can use scores to shop for healthier items within each category, such as higher scoring breakfast cereals. While Food Compass works well across thousands of products on average, scores may not be yet ideal to compare foods that play very different roles in the diet, such as protein-rich food like eggs, meat, or fish versus a carbohydrate-rich food like bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes. So what I've learned, like many of the meatheads online, are just misinterpreting the purpose of this ranking system. Amazing.
It's easy to assume that our understanding of individual nutrients is so advanced that we don't need to rely on outdated meat-based diets. We can make replacements. But while the amount of knowledge on nutrition that's been accumulated is incredible, is it as complete as we assume? In 1989, scientists decided that the standardized purified lab rat feed needed to include several seemingly random things like chromium, fluoride, boron, vanadium, arsenic, nickel, tin, lithium, and silicon. Why? Well, they didn't really know what these things did. They just observed that the rats didn't grow properly without them. In 1978, a 6-year-old girl was admitted to the hospital with a serious gunshot wound to the stomach. At the time, just how essential omega-3 fatty acids are wasn't fully understood. The liquefied nutrition they gave her was deficient in omega-3s, causing her to develop neurological symptoms like numbed legs and feet, drastic weakness, and blurred eyesight. It wasn't even until 1998 that the nutrient choline was recognized to be essential.
Hold up.
Threes, causing her to develop
So wait. The study he's looking at here to say that because of a deficiency in this diet, this is what she got the problems from. But it says here, she lost 300 centimeters of intestine and was maintained by total parenteral nutrition. I'd like to know the exact... Hold up. Yeah, I'd like to get into that study. I don't think that study says what he thinks it says, but let's see what Danny says. 'Cause I'm not going to go find the study yet. I'll see what Danny says about the study.
Neurological symptoms like numbed legs and feet, drastic weakness, and blurred eyesight. It wasn't even until 1998 that the nutrient choline was recognized to be essential. Liver disease, heart disease, and neurological dysfunction taught us that choline is pretty important. A paper from just last year, in 2022, suggests that we underestimate the optimal intake of choline. This choline study found that 7-year-old children had better attention span if their mothers consumed twice the recommended amount of choline during their pregnancy.
All right, so here's an interesting finding. The paper he just cited from 2022, which he claims suggests we underestimate the optimal intake of choline, was on prenatal choline intake. not choline intake. Not to mention that the study was dependent on choline supplementation and found a benefit with the higher dose of it, which is a little funny to observe considering his earlier advocacy for eggs over choline supplements for sufficient choline.
That's hilarious. So, to simplify that point, the guy was shitting on choline supplements earlier, saying that, oh no, they're not good, or whatever he was saying, that they're not suitable. But now he's quoting a study where people supplemented choline and it got better outcomes. Which is it then, mate? Which is it? This guy, man, it's frustrating.
And it gets even more hilarious. To get the amount of choline in the higher supplement group, one would have to consume 7 medium eggs per day, which would be about a quarter of a pregnant woman's diet if we assume a 2,000 calorie intake. I think a supplement would be more preferable. And just another reminder that I'm not totally sure how any of this shows that vegan diets don't work. The fact is that rambling about all of the cases in which we clearly did not have a full understanding of nutrition is just to point out something that comes with all scientific endeavors related to understanding phenomena, which is that we are always seeking to develop a full understanding of whatever topic we are focused on understanding. And more often than not, we don't have a full understanding of these topics. I can just as easily ramble about us not having, all the information on nutrition when it comes to non-vegan diets and think maybe we're having too much of something in non-vegan diets, or we're having too little of something. So maybe I should now make a video called Why Non-Vegan Diets Don't Work.
Finally, let's go back to 1865 when the first infant formula was invented. It took many decades for quality and regulations to improve, but eventually infant formula came to be widely regarded as a safe substitute for breast milk, leading to a significant decline in breastfeeding.
Pet milk is a safe milk for babies. So feed your baby the pet milk way.
Research has associated formula feeding with children more easily developing eczema, asthma, and food allergies, as well as diabetes and obesity. A 2008 study found breastfed babies to have 5-point higher IQ. Today, the AAP, WHO, and UNICEF all recommend exclusive breastfeeding for at least the first 6 months of life.
So here's a paper showing that babies fed formula had higher lean body mass. And here's another paper showing that babies fed formula were taller. Now, why is this interesting? Later in his video, you're gonna see that what I've learned implies that vegan kids being adequately tall but not at their, potentially tallest is a problem.
This study points out that the growth of vegetarian children was adequate, but less than average. I wonder how people would react to a doctor saying, your son won't be as tall as he could be, but don't worry, his height will be adequate.
So to test what I've learned's consistency, we have to ask, is it okay if breastfed babies aren't gonna be as tall as they could be as formula-fed babies? If he is cool with it, then why is he not cool with it in the case where vegan kids don't get to be their, top end height?
In fact, there are all kinds of compounds only found in meat that we currently assume are not necessary to have in the diet. Things like creatine, carnosine, anserine, taurine. There's evidence that each of these have beneficial effects. Just to look at two, this 2002 paper argues that taurine may be essential in certain circumstances, and creatine supplementation has benefits for brain function in adults like improving memory, intelligence, and mood, and it reduces the negative effects of sleep deprivation. Further, creatine is transferred from the mother to her baby during pregnancy, providing several benefits to the baby.
All right, so another thing needs to be made clear. When What I've Learned says that there are all kinds of compounds only found in meat that we currently assume are not necessary to have in our diet, understand that you can literally make the same argument for literally any food component. For example, what if sulforaphane is essential? And to be clear, I've touched on creatine, carnosine, anserine, taurine, and whether they are essential before, and if they have any potential benefits. I'll have that video linked in the description. Now, what about that taurine paper from 2002 that he cited? He argues that taurine may be essential in, quote, certain circumstances. Those circumstances being premature infants requiring, wait for it, total parenteral nutrition, which, if you don't know, involves all synthetic nutrients being put into an infant, or supplements. This is not a common circumstance at all, and the infant is already being fed synthetic nutrients. They're just also being fed taurine. So if he's cool with taurine supplementation, then I get to say, okay, well, what about, vegans getting taurine from supplements? Even though, by the way, it's not clear that we need it, but whatever. Oh, and also just understand that the reason the infant is in need of synthetic taurine is because they're premature and can't create their own taurine. Now, what about the paper he cited on creatine? In that paper, subjects were being supplemented with 5 to 20 grams of creatine. You would need to consume a kilogram of beef, or about 2.2 pounds of beef, to get that 5 grams minimum of creatine. So think about this real quick. All of these papers he cited rely on supplementation. Yet earlier in the video, What I've Learned mentions our being victim of nutritionism, which he defines as the idea that we need food-specific components as opposed to whole foods. The findings of these papers, which he supposedly deems as good sources considering he cited them, suggest that yes, chasing individual components of food actually works. Take, for example, the taurine paper and the creatine paper. In both papers, it was found that consuming the nutritional components of foods resulted in benefits.
The other thing is reality versus...
Man, I can't even get my head around this guy. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that his video gets seen by possibly millions and the debunks just don't get even a percentage of that viewership, you know? Because it's just, well, I don't even need to explain it. It's just so incredibly frustrating that he gets away with this shit. Shits all over supplements, then uses papers to prove a point about taurine and creatine. And in the papers that he's citing, these studies, they were studies on supplements. And that people were having some positive effect through supplementing taurine and creatine because they had some, well, with the creatine situation, it's been proven that if you supplement creatine, there are positive effects with that. Because if you want to try to consume creatine through the food, then you wouldn't be able to consume enough anyway without negative effects of those foods, right? So, for example, like he was talking about meat, health negative effects, and also the fact that you have to slit animals' throats. So instead, just take powdered creatine. But the taurine, and anyway, the point being, the papers he was using to back up his claims, they were using supplements in them. It's just like how do you get to that point? Oh my God, man.
Versus theories. In theory, you could take a retinol supplement, a B12 supplement, a zinc supplement, an algae-derived DHA supplement, a kelp-derived iodine supplement. You could take a vitamin D supplement or eat a ton of UV-exposed mushrooms. Then you can make sure that your plant sources of iron and calcium are low in oxalate. You could take substantial amounts of soy or pea protein powders to make up for the fact that most plant proteins are poorly absorbed and have lower amounts of amino acids, and so on and so on. But the reality is that the average person doesn't want to spend time worrying about nutrients. Again, meat is so nutrient dense that you can get a decent amount of well-absorbed zinc, iron, selenium, choline, various B vitamins, vitamin A, calcium, and other nutrients just eating a crappy cheeseburger. Ideally, people shouldn't eat crappy cheeseburgers, but the average busy person doesn't have time to craft the perfect meal.
A decent amount of nutrients from a cheeseburger. If you plug in 3 Burger King Whopper cheeseburgers, then before exceeding 2,200 calories, you'd be deficient in vitamin B5, B6, A, C, D, E, and minerals like copper, magnesium, manganese, and potassium. But hey, at least you get 4 grams of sodium and 42 grams of saturated fat with your 3 extremely nutrient-dense cheeseburgers. Something that also needs to be understood is what the term nutrient density means. Nutrient density is the measure of the nutrients a food provides relative to the energy it provides. The more nutrients per calorie a food provides, the more nutrient dense it is. Here are 2 examples of calculating this. Skim milk delivers about 85 calories with its 300 milligrams of calcium. To calculate the nutrient density, divide milligrams by calories. So 300 milligrams divided by 85 calories equals 3.5 milligrams per calorie. Now do the same for fresh turnip greens, which provide 15 calories with the 100 milligrams of calcium. You take 100 milligrams of calcium divided by 15 calories and you get 6.7 milligrams of calcium per calorie. So in this case, it'd be fair to say that in regard to calcium per calorie, fresh turnip greens are more nutrient dense than skim milk. And something hilarious about all this is that wheat is considered more nutrient dense than beef. Here's the nutrients for 2,500 calories of whole bagels and 2,500 calories for ribeye. Amazing. So next time you see a carnivore say that beef is the most nutrient dense food on the planet, just send them the nutritional profile of bagels.
Ideally, people shouldn't eat crappy cheeseburgers, but the average busy person doesn't have time to craft the perfect meal. Convenience is important. This is evidenced by the fact that a 2021 paper found that the more people avoided animal products in their diet, the more they ate convenient, ultra-processed foods, with vegans eating the most processed foods.
And yet another instance of what I've learned showing us that he doesn't read his sources properly. Amazing. He mentions convenience ultra-processed foods, but links a paper where the reason vegans seemingly ate more ultra-processed foods, and to be clear, not convenience foods, was that the authors classified meat alternatives in plant-based milks like soy milk as ultra-processed foods. The difference was so tiny as to be entirely explained by that classification. What I've learned also failed to mention that vegans ate more unprocessed foods than omnivores. And this is all very bizarre considering what I've learned has said in the past concerning vegans and the health or user bias. He says here that the reasons vegans have better health outcomes is healthy user bias.
The second point is the healthy user bias, which says that people who are likely to do a vegetarian diet, which is thought to be healthy, are also likely to do several other things that are thought to be healthy, like not smoke or get plenty of exercise.
So are they eating too many convenience ultra-processed foods, or are they eating so healthy that they come across as healthy because of healthy user bias? Amazing.
Looking at the updated...
Fuck's sake. So they classify tofu and soy milk as an ultra-processed food. Why do that? Well, obviously, it's either something dodgy from the people doing the study, or it was the fact that the ultra-processed food category doesn't mean what it appears to mean to you and I. It might mean that we think, oh, ultra-processed food, that sounds really bad, but to them, they might have just been defining that as, I don't know, as something else that's not actually bad. Because clearly, soy milk isn't bad. Tofu isn't bad, right? But when you put them in a category of ultra-processed food, then it makes them sound terrible.
Impossible Burger ingredient list, they basically swap the animal protein with soy and the animal fat with sunflower oil and coconut oil. And they throw in several other vitamins to mimic the vitamin profile of meat. Eating tons of processed soy protein and vegetable oils like sunflower oil is totally new to the human stomach.
All right, so he says that eating tons of processed soy protein is new to the human stomach, yet it's associated with better health outcomes.
Sunflower oil seems like a simple swap for animal fat, but they are totally different. Many animal fats can be a good source of vitamin K2, but vegetable oil in fact hampers the activity of vitamin K, making you need even more.
And in response to what he said about, many animal fats can be a good source of K2, the only studies he cited on the benefits of K2 were using doses above 400 milligrams per day from supplements. And we already covered in part 1 how poor the amount of K2 in animal foods is, and how it isn't even bioavailable.
The information about soy-based foods, it's been so confusing. Is it good for us? Is it bad for us?
The hormone disrupting effects of increased soy consumption is somewhat controversial, but it may explain why a study on almost 8,000 boys found boys born to vegetarian mothers had a higher risk for a specific deformity in the genitals called hypospadias.
All right, guys, okay. This paper did not even assess soy nor isoflavone intake, so I'm not sure why he is citing this paper to help support the notion that soy is problematic in regard to hypospadias. This would be a slightly reasonable thing to do if soy was the only vegetarian food there was, but turns out it isn't. Shocking.
Man. I'd like to know what exactly that study was showing though, and what even that is. Maybe I can check that out myself, but yeah.
Soy has this plant-based estrogen, isoflavones.
Men think about the estrogen effects as well.
Soy contains the isoflavonoid genistein, which a 2022 meta-analysis found has detrimental effects on the male reproductive system.
Alrighty guys, this paper is a meta-analysis on preclinical studies. Preclinical studies are on non-human animals. It turns out that humans are not non-human animals. It seems like what I've learned just partially read the title, but didn't get to the part mentioning that this meta-analysis was on preclinical studies. Amazing. So it's either that or he thinks we're rats.
Lastly, Impossible Burger has tried to make their product taste meatier with something called soy leg hemoglobin from the roots of genetically modified soy plants. GMOscience.org writes that a 28-day study on rats commissioned by Impossible Foods in 2017 on soy leg hemoglobin found that soy leg hemoglobin caused statistically significant changes in weight gain, changes in the blood that can indicate the onset of inflammation or kidney disease, and possible signs of anemia in the rats.
So I went over to the original source, GMO Science, for this claim about the findings and what happened to these rats. But when I went to the actual paper, I found the opposite. It said there was no mortalities, clinical observations, ophthalmology, body weight gain, food consumption, or food efficacy changes attributable to leg hemoglobin prep administration for either sex. Additionally, there were no test substance-related changes in hematology, serum chemistry, or urine analysis parameters for males or female rats. And if you want, you can pause now and read the rest, but pretty much nothing substantiates what they said. And you can read these too. Pause now.
Further studies did eventually persuade the FDA to designate leg hemoglobin as safe, but Impossible Foods admitted that a quarter of their new ingredient was composed of 46 unexpected additional proteins, none of which were assessed for safety in the dossier.
This part is very weird because what I've learned actually cites this tweet from Impossible Foods, but fails to mention what they said in defense. The tweet says the 46 proteins are from PETA pastoris, a non-toxic, non-pathogenic yeast, and quote, unknown protein simply means that scientists haven't yet figured out its physiological function. If you analyze beef or any other food, there will be many of quote, unknown proteins found. It's also weird that he called these unexpected proteins as opposed to unknown proteins. What's an unexpected protein? Didn't know that was a scientific term.
This
Oh my God. It's just a lot, isn't it? It's just so much nonsense and so much bullshit coming out of this guy's mouth. And it just pisses me off how much he sits there with this little smug, smarmy attitude with his, you know, his really nice camera setup and his very, you know, expensive production value and all this shit while just spouting uneducated nonsense. And in fact, no, it's educated nonsense, but he's doing it on purpose. He's like educated in the sense that he probably knows what he's saying is wrong, but he's putting it out anyway. We're accused of propaganda. This is pure propaganda. This is actually taking data, ignoring other data, and pushing it out as if it's the be-all, end-all towards a goal, towards your end, which his end, of course, is to make money from YouTube, to strengthen his follower base. He's appealing to the vast majority of people who are not vegan. It's just a business move for this guy. It's nothing more. It's insane that people don't see through it and realize this guy is tricking you, lying to you, not for a good reason. If he were trying to fool people and lie to people for some kind of, I don't know, like, I don't agree with this, but if a vegan lies and tricks people to try to save animals, I would say that don't do that, because it undermines the message and it undermines the reputation of vegans, and overall it will probably cause more animals to be harmed as people don't listen to us, right? But it's understandable as to why somebody might lie, even though it's wrong. This guy is lying and cheating the public for money and fame. It's not understandable. It's not something you can say, well, fair. I mean, I get it. I don't agree, but I see why he did it. No. He's just doing it just to further himself while shitting on animals, while shitting on vegans, putting people at risk of various diseases by telling them to avoid foods that are good for them and eat more foods that have been proven to be bad for them. Wow, just I don't even have words anymore to describe this guy. Just what a piece of shit.
This is another big issue with trying to replace animal foods. The replacement almost always comes with plenty of other stuff. Kidney beans need to be soaked and cooked to reduce the lectin content. Certain people can still be sensitive to the trace amounts of lectins in properly processed kidney beans.
Yeah, so very easy solution here. Don't eat kidney beans raw. Crazy. Also, he talks about sensitivity to the trace amounts in properly cooked beans. Beyond the no citations, there is no detectable lectin activity in beans soaked for 12 hours and cooked for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on variety. In other words, just normal ways to cook them. And similarly, no activity for unsoaked pressure cooked beans. The time it takes to deactivate the lectins is below the time it takes for them to be even soft enough to eat. And at least compared to beef, beans give you a warning when they are not cooked properly. If you haven't destroyed the lectins, then they are not cooked through, generally. And they'll taste and feel awful. Meat doesn't do that. What's also interesting is that chicken alone kills more people in the US per year than the suspected cases of people that have been killed in the UK in 13 years from kidney beans. And not confirmed cases, suspected cases.
Phytic acid.
Just buy kidney beans from the store that have been pre-soaked and pre-cooked if you're so worried about it. But if you're not a fucking idiot, then you can figure out how to soak them and cook them yourself, right? Now, the thing that could be your case with you just don't have the time, you can't be bothered. That's fair enough. But, I mean, he's acting as if you're too stupid to figure out how to cook kidney beans or any kind of raw bean or pulse or... Look, anyone can figure it out, right? Only people who, I don't know, I don't even want to go down that road. Just look, okay. If you buy raw, rock-solid beans and grains and whatever from the store, if you're not sure if they need to be cooked or soaked or not, run a little Google and see what's up. Or if you can't be bothered, buy them ready, prepared. Most shops in the world have them. There you go. There you go, guys.
Acid found in beans, seeds, nuts, and grains inhibits fat digestion and the absorption of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc. How much? Well, this study found that about 35% less zinc is absorbed in a vegetarian diet. Fiber itself worsens the activity of pancreatic lipase, which is important for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and K2.
So the studies he cites for these claims are just unbelievable. The first study seems to be an in vitro study, which is very low on the evidence hierarchy. The second paper on calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc digestion being inhibited by phytic acid is on rats. Some human health outcome data would be nice. The third paper is the paper we covered in part 1 of my debunk that said the less bioavailability of zinc and iron from phytic acid have no functional consequences. And the paper for fiber worsening the activity of pancreatic lipase is an in vitro study, which again is very high on the evidence hierarchy.
A high intake of goitrogenic plants like cabbage, kale, and turnips can interfere with iodine functioning.
Yeah, there was just no citations for this claim in his script. Let's keep going.
God damn. So he just, this is his MO. This is what he does. He just goes out there with the ideas he has in his head. All right. I want to say that all these things about the plant-based diet are bad, and supplements are bad, and meat is good. And I'm just going to go out, and he's probably just gone on these carnivore idiot YouTubes and then heard their claims and gone, right, let's go and try to find any study that I can find that backs the claims. Doesn't matter if the study's powerful, doesn't matter if the study's done on humans, doesn't matter if the study was done on 19 people or 19,000 people, doesn't matter. I just need studies that prove what I want to say, and he's just thrown them into a video where he's sat there like a smarmy cunt, and basically with all the production value and the music and the old footage to make it seem more rustic and, you know, like, oh, professional, and like he's a documentary filmmaker and some shit. And he's put it all together and he's gotten away with it. And I say he's gotten away with it because, yeah, of course, some vegans have called him out, of course. But overall, he's got away with it. Because the comments section, as far as I could see, was mostly people supporting him. People saying they were thinking about going vegan and now they're not. People saying that they, you know, all this confirmation bias from people that didn't want to go vegan really, but they was going to go vegan, or people that were plant-based, and, oh, it destroyed my health, thank you for this, all that kind of crap, because most people are not vegan, and a good chunk of those people are against vegans because they make them feel bad. It is just one big con from, I might even go as far as saying YouTube's biggest non-money taking con man. As in, this guy doesn't take your money to con you, but he cons you with his bullshit ideas and makes a boat ton of cash from it. Like serious cash from bullshitting people through his Patreon, through his YouTube ads, through his sponsorships. Fuck, man. What a twat.
This nutrient challenge is part of the reason why the German Nutrition Society in 2016 and the French-speaking pediatric HGN group in 2019 recommended against a vegan diet for adolescents, children, or mothers.
Okay, so 2 problems here. It is cherry-picked, as most organizations say that vegan diets are fine as long as they're balanced. And number 2, it is cherry-picked even in the countries he chose to cite. French dietary guidelines and German ones both recommend limiting meat if it's eaten. The fact that they say if it's eaten implies that meat is not essential.
Several studies have found that babies born to vegan mothers have a lower birth weight compared to babies of omnivore mothers.
Okay, so these studies generally found negligible differences, and pretty much everything cited by him attributed these low birth weights to inadequate versions of vegan diets, mainly including lack of B12 supplementation. Also, here's a quote from one of the sources he cited. And this quote is just another one of those quotes that indicate he has not read his sources properly. It should be thus concluded that vegan diets are appropriate for pregnant and lactating women only if these women habitually use reliable B12 sources, preferably oral supplements. Again, he cited this source, so we can only assume he thinks that it's a good source. So I guess what I've learned actually thinks that vegan diets can go through when it comes to your pregnancy, as long as people are supplementing properly. Amazing.
Thank you, Gorik, for the tip. Says, taking into account that this guy could obviously read the studies he is citing, aka purposefully misinterpreting, he is the lowest of the low from an ethical point of view. He chooses to talk people into animal exploitation. What a disgusting POS. Totally agree, Gorik. Totally agree. We are assuming that he understands the studies that he's citing, and I would go as far as saying I think he does. I think he does understand them. I don't think that he's reading them thoroughly enough. Or maybe he is. I don't know. Either way, he's still a disgusting piece of shit. Completely unethical. Lily Veg, thank you so much for the tip. Says, study, we cannot prove that vegan diet doesn't work. This guy, this study said that vegan diet doesn't work. Is it true partly? Is what true partly? I didn't get the last bit. But yeah, that the studies say this doesn't show that a plant-based diet doesn't work. And his conclusion every time is, you see, that's why it doesn't work. This study does not conclude that supplements don't work. His video, this shows that they don't work. He's done this continuously over and over and over again. Here's a study that proves my point. And then Danny goes, here's why this study doesn't prove his point. And here's another study that was bigger and more powerful that proves the opposite point. Fuck this guy. Thank you for the tips, guys. Keep them coming.
Another one of his sources stated that the marginally smaller size in vegetarian newborns was essentially due to mothers not being as high in body fat and wasn't associated with any morbidities of being small for gestational age. And you know how he thinks that B12 supplements may not work as well as animal foods? Well, one of the studies he cited clearly showed B12 supplementation working. The women were B12 deficient, and soy milk fortified with B12 fixed this for all participants. Of course, he wasn't aware of this when he was trying to establish that B12 supplements don't work. Yet another instance of cherry-picking findings in studies from what I've learned.
This study points out that the growth of vegetarian children was adequate, but less than average. I wonder how people would react to a doctor saying, your son won't be as tall as he could be, but don't worry, his height will be adequate.
Whoa, big surprise. What I've learned left out important details of the study. Let's see what they are. What I've learned does not cover how the height of the vegan children in the study appeared to level out at around 10 years of age. He also left out the potential explanations by the authors for the initial difference in height between vegans and the reference group. These include the possibility of vegan children consuming low-calorie dense foods in their weaning phase, which can obviously be resolved by consuming higher-calorie vegan foods. Also, the low income of the studied population leading to a less variety of foods, and the higher degree of breastfeeding than bottle feeding in the vegan population compared to the reference population. And again, this is ironic considering what we discussed earlier about bottle-fed infants being taller than breastfed infants. In this case, the vegan mothers were more likely to breastfeed over bottle feeding, which could have contributed to the infant's shorter height. And here's what the authors consider
Yeah, but he would argue that the reason that the vegan breast milk didn't work is because vegans are deficient. I think that would be the point he would make there, but that's not what the study's saying, clearly.
The most important potential explanation for the findings. The third and perhaps the most important possible explanation for the differences between the farm and the reference population involves the intrinsic irregularities in the current reference growth curves. The National Center for Health Statistics / Centers for Disease Control reference consists of two populations: the FELS data of children from Yellow Springs, Ohio for ages 0 to 24 months, and the US representative data for 2 years of age and older, with the noted differences in height between the two populations. If the reference population were free from these irregularities, the observed differences in height for age between the study and the reference populations would be smaller at the younger ages. Again, why does what I've learned not include these details when sharing papers trying to substantiate the notion that vegan diets don't work? He either doesn't properly read the papers, reads the papers but withholds this information from his audience, or reads the papers but is too lazy to include the important information in his video. Given how in-depth his editing is for his videos, I doubt it's laziness. So he's either incompetent, dishonest, or both. Yeah. Amazing.
This begs another question. What is the difference between enough nutrients and the optimal amount of nutrients? When you look at a nutrition label, it will tell you what % of your requirement for a nutrient that you're getting. This is called the RDA, but it's not set based on the optimal amount of that nutrient you should get. It's set based on determining how much is enough to prevent a deficiency. And then they recommend to get a little bit more than that. For example, that study on choline that I mentioned earlier found that pregnant women getting twice the RDA had beneficial effects on their babies. The adult RDA for vitamin D in the US is currently 600 IUs. However, the Endocrine Society suspects that not even 1,000 IUs would be enough to provide all the health benefits associated with vitamin D. They recommend about 3 times the RDA for adults, 1,500 to 2,000 IUs. So this isn't only a criticism of a plant-based diet. Obviously, the average person's omnivore diet needs to drastically improve. And nutrition isn't the only reason people choose to be vegan, but cutting out nutrient-dense animal foods doesn't seem like a move in the right direction for health.
So just gotta say that cheeseburger diet he mentioned earlier that was so nutrient dense would not meet this vitamin D RDA. And let's remember what he said at the end of this most recent clip. Everything he is saying here can also be said about omnivorous diets. However, he uses what he says here to bolster the idea that cutting out, quote, nutrient dense animal foods does not seem like the right move, insinuating that if we want to get optimal levels of nutrients, cutting out animal foods would make this all the more difficult. But perhaps what I've learned doesn't realize is that by increasing animal product consumption for hitting the supposed optimal intake for some of the nutrients he has named in this video, he could be bringing himself farther from the optimal amount of nutrients needed for certain nutrients primarily found in plant foods. Take vitamin C, for example, or phytonutrients found in plants in general. The main point here is that what he is saying can work both ways. And as I keep saying, what does anything he's just said have to do with disproving that vegan diets can work?
For 99% of human history, we relied on animal foods for nutrients. An animal food containing diet has a strong track record that spans arguably over 1.7 million years. Various cultures viewed animal foods as important to growth, and despite the challenging circumstances they lived in, they were protected from infectious and chronic disease. And they enjoyed proper—
No, they weren't. What is he talking about? They weren't. This is the survivorship bias thing again. They weren't protected from chronic disease. Lots of them died of chronic diseases and various different viruses and diseases. The things that we die of now are different than what they were dying of because of our lifestyles being different and because of things have changed, obviously, when we're all packed together in massive populations versus living in small communities. But the average age of someone dying these days and the diseases they die of have to be pretty damn serious to kill them early, right? Because of how far we've advanced. You know, if we hadn't have, if people, put it this way, if people weren't living as long as they are now, they would be dying of the same things that hunter-gatherers were dying of. So I don't understand why he keeps bringing this point back. It makes no sense. The only reason people die of, say, at the age of 80 or 70 or 60 of cancer or heart disease is because they didn't die at the age of 30 of some other issue, I don't know, like the flu or something, or some cuts they got infected by. And I'm not saying that heart disease and cancer is good, but I'm saying the only reason people are getting aging long enough to die of that is because they didn't die of this other stuff that hunter-gatherers would have died of at the age of 30 or younger. That doesn't change the fact that we need to do something, and we need to. I want to figure out how cancer is caused and how heart disease is caused. We know lots of risk factors, and that's great. But it's still the point he's making here, again, as Danny's mentioned a couple of times anyway, it doesn't prove that plant-based diets are unhealthy. All the data that's out there, the biggest, most powerful data, proves that plant-based diets come with a lowered risk of the major killers, actually. So, and he's not even spoken about those, by the way. That would be interesting if this guy tried to debunk those big, powerful studies that show those positive outcomes of a plant-based diet. All this guy's done is cherry-picked tiny studies and studies with issues that try to prove his point. What I would have been more interested in would have been him taking the most powerful pro-vegan studies and trying to debunk those. That would have been a video he couldn't do it, obviously. That's why he hasn't done it. That's why he's cherry-picked all these shit studies instead.
Growth in their body, faces, and mouths.
All right, so he didn't provide a source for the claim that none of our ancestors had our modern diseases of civilization, but here is a source suggesting that they did. And just a reminder that he referred to what constitutes diseases of civilization earlier in the video as heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, and so on. And the source I just provided shows evidence of cancer in our early ancestors. And as discussed before, he has survivorship bias to contend with when trying to worship the health outcomes of our ancestors or hunter-gatherers, and, you know, attributing their health outcomes to the foods they eat as opposed to them just being a fit population.
And also, I've seen studies that have found the signs of heart disease in, I don't know what you would call them. Is it Inuits? Is that what they're called? The people who, the Inuits. Yeah. They found heart disease in their, in some, let me find it. I think it was anyway, I can't remember. I'm not gonna be able to find that study, but yeah, there you go. There's me telling you a claim without a citation. But yeah, there was some study somewhere, or it was an article that was citing a study that was talking about the Inuit population, or they dug up some frozen bones, some frozen bodies or something like that, did some studies and cut them open and found they had the beginnings of heart disease developing, like deposits in the arteries. So yeah, it's just because you don't know about it doesn't mean that people back then weren't also developing some of the things that people develop now. It's just that, and also the time comes into it too. As I've said, the longer you're alive, you'll develop different things. Of course, you're going to get different problems than someone who died at 30 when you live to 90. Of course you are.
With that in mind, a plant-based diet is an experiment without any meaningful track record.
Especially when it comes to kids, I think it is a very risky thing.
It's been a
oh my God. As if his credibility couldn't get any lower. He shows a fucking clip of that complete and utter numpty. Oh, wild. I just watched one of his videos recently where he was talking about, this is John Venus, by the way, for those who don't know. He's talking about how he got paid to people paid him to be vegan or something, he was saying. He claimed he got paid $15,000 a month to talk about veganism. Didn't specify where he got the money, what he got the money to do exactly, like who he got it from and what he had to promote. No, it didn't specify anything like that. Just said, oh yeah, I got $15,000 a month. Well, he was an ambassador for a vegan protein company, so they probably paid him quite a lot. He got probably paid to do public speeches and come to events. He probably got paid to be in the Game Changers. He's probably got paid to go on different people's YouTube channels and stuff like that. It means that may be where his $15K a month came from. It could be that he was funded by a generous vegan donor who wanted to help him with his advocacy, because he did talk about animals and he did want to go out there and help the animals and help the world by showing, you know, the muscles and being like, yeah, here's what I eat and stuff like that. So it's also possible that some generous person out there who wants to help animals said, hey man, I'll help you out. And here in this video, this is, I'm not going to show the video, guys, because I don't want to give him any attention. But in this video that this guy made, this ex-vegan, this John Venus, he was like making it out like it's some sinister, I was paid to promote veganism. No, mate, you were supported by people who care about animals, who thought you were on our side, you piece of shit. And then you turned your back on them and on the animals. So, you know, fuck that guy. Fuck you. To come out and make out like it's sinister, like, oh, I was bribed to promote veganism. No, dude, you were telling everyone you were vegan for animals and that you cared. Of course, people are going to give you money through Patreon, sponsorships, or just supporting you to make pro-vegan videos because they want to help animals, man. What a piece of shit. Anyway, that's enough of that ranting. Let's finish this one. Let's do some more ranting on some different anti-vegan nonsense, because tell you what, I am so fucking sick of this piece of shit.
Couple decades at best that people have been doing purely vegan diets, yet so many people are already quitting for health reasons.
So he says here that a plant-based diet is a diet without any meaningful track record. He followed this up with saying, it's been a couple decades at best that people have been doing vegan diets, yet already many people quit for health reasons. His evidence for this claim are anecdotes of ex-vegan hypochondriacs and that 84% vegans quit study that everybody cites. Yeah. So here is the pyramid one last time to understand how unreasonable it is to consider these ex-vegans anything more than uninformative when it comes to this topic. Yeah. And one last time, let's look a little bit more into that 84% study. What's interesting is that if you actually read into the study, you'll find that the vast majority of people who quit weren't even experiencing ill health. What's also interesting is that 76% of the people who quit never had their B12 levels checked, and 26% of the people who quit said that they weren't regularly taking a B12 supplement or consuming fortified foods. Perhaps less people would have experienced ill health if they supplemented what they needed to. So what I've learned is evidence to support the claim that many vegan people quit for health reasons are ex-vegan hypochondriac anecdotes and a paper that found that the vast majority of people who quit were not experiencing any health effects. Amazing. Also, just to be clear, I totally think it's possible that a person could be on a vegan diet and quit because they had sincerely been experiencing, you know, health ailments. But that does not mean that vegan diets inherently come with health ailments. It's just possible to do a very shitty version of a vegan diet. Now let's see if the claim that the vegan diet is just an experiment with no meaningful track record holds up to the evidence. I want to start with the Adventist health study on vegetarians, which included vegans. If we take a brief look at the study, we see that the study involved 73,308 participants after certain exclusion criteria. The goal of this paper was to evaluate the association between vegetarian dietary patterns and mortality. The participants were broken up into 5 dietary pattern groups. They were non-vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, pesco-vegetarian, lacto-ovo-vegetarian, and vegan. Oh, and let it also be mentioned that this paper adjusted for confounding factors such as sex, race, geographic region, personal income, educational level, marital status, smoking, alcohol use, exercise, sleep, menopausal status of women, hormone therapy in postmenopausal women, dietary energy, and BMI. What they found was that vegetarian diets were associated with lower all-cause mortality, with some reductions in cause-specific mortality. And the subset of vegetarians that were vegan had a significantly reduced risk in both sexes combined for other mortality and in men for all-cause mortality, ischemic heart disease mortality, and cardiovascular disease mortality. In this paper titled Vegetarian Vegan Diets and Multiple Health Outcomes, a systematic review with meta-analysis of observational studies, the conclusion states that this comprehensive meta-analysis reports a significant protective effect of a vegetarian diet versus the incidence and or mortality from ischemic heart disease and incidence from total cancer. It goes on to say that the vegan diet conferred a significant reduced risk of incidence from total cancer.
So at the end of the day,
so basically, guys, there was a lot of data, but the takeaway point is that if you're eating a plant-based diet that is sufficiently supplemented where it needs to be, and you're getting all the other nutrients and eating properly, not eating Oreos and fries and Coca-Cola every day, and only that, then you'll have lower risks of the things that tend to kill humans. That's the takeaway message from all those studies that Danny just put up. The complete and utter opposite of what this numpty's been saying for the past, however, well, hour or so that we've been reacting. What a piece of dishonest shit. And it's I would love for him to go and take Danny's studies, like Danny took his studies, and have a go at debunking them and doing a new video about that. See how far you can get. The answer is he won't be able to do that because he can't cherry pick the studies that he likes. He has to look at actual powerful studies, the ones that you're supposed to look at. And debunking those is going to be, you're going to try really hard, and you're not going to be able to. You might be able to point out one or two sentences that can be interpreted one way or another or something like that. You know, something might come across vague at some point in some of these studies, but overall he would never get far enough to make a whole video shitting on the plant-based diet, which is why he didn't do it, which is why instead he focused on these small shit studies to back up his points.
Science is a promising story of progress. Maybe one day we'll learn enough to make a sufficient plant-based replacement for animal foods. But I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
We already have. As demonstrated in part 1, B12 supplements work, fortified plant foods work. What I've learned just decided to cherry pick garbage data to support the claim that they don't. All right, guys, that is the end of the video and the end of my entire critique of what I've learned's extremely misguided and error-filled video saying that vegan diets don't work. Thank you so much.
I love how pissed off Danny was by the end. He started off quite, ready to go, but by the end of recording, he was just completely. You see his face. He seems angry. That it's almost like I'm pissed off that I've had to do this, and I'm sick to death of this fucker. I'm so tired of watching this fucker's video, of reading this fucker's Substack post, of going through this fucker's shit studies, and then getting my good studies to debunk this fucker, and then I've got to record this fucking video about this fucker, and then edit this fucking video about this fucker, and get it down from what is probably 2 hours down to 1 hour, and understand that most fuckers aren't going to watch the fucking video about this fucker, right? Because he knows that he knows this, Dan. He knows this is not even going to get 1% of this guy's reach. It's just a whole load of shit. And I really, really value Danny for putting in all this effort. For honestly, the reward, it's not even the reward he gets is knowing he's done the right thing and he's put right what was wrong. But aside from that, I mean, Danny's not going to get loads of patrons from this. He's not going to get loads of views from this or ad revenue. He's not even, honestly, this video probably won't make that much of a difference compared to what this guy's video is. But he did it anyway. And that deserves a fuck ton of respect for Danny, and he deserves your patronage. So guys, he's plugging his Patreon at the end here. Look, if you're in a position to support Danny, even at $1 a month, get over there and support him. You know he deserves it. They're all of that for the cause, right? Because he's passionate about animals. He's passionate about helping them and changing the world for them. And this focus on nutrition that Danny's good at helps with that because it puts to rest a lot of the bullshit. Now, bearing in mind, Danny, when I say Danny's video won't make that much of a difference, and compared to his video, it won't. But that's right now. You see, if Danny keeps going and keeps making more and more videos, he will make more and more of a difference. But he can only keep doing that if you guys support him. So get over there and subscribe if you don't already, and join his Patreon if you can afford $1 a month. Because one day he could be a way, way, way bigger YouTuber with way more of a weight in this game, so that when someone like What I've Learned puts out that shit, Danny can put out a response, and you never know, he could be punch for punch with the guy. And that's what we want, isn't it? That's what we need, isn't it? We need people like Danny who are able to reach as many people as these fucking morons like What I've Learned. Or we should call him not What I've Learned, we should call him What I've Earned. Because realistically, you're not learning fuck all from him, but you are helping him earn a fuck ton of money, aren't you? That's all you're doing when you watch this guy's videos. You're watching a load of lies so he can make money. So yeah, we need people like Danny to get more, to do this content more, to be able to do it for a longer time, to build up the channel more and more and more, and spend more and more money on the channel to build up so that you can go up and go toe to toe and get the viewership that's necessary to go toe to toe with someone like What I've Earned. So guys, get over there and sign up with him. And if you can't, please just go and subscribe and like this video. This is What I've Learned fails to debunk vegan diets again, and it's lifting vegan logic, which is Annie's already put the link in the chat there. I burped down the mic. My bad, guys. Sweet, Danny, awesome work, mate. What a load of effort that was. Wow. So let's get on to our schedule for today, the next part of our schedule. So I wanted to take a look at a video by this Brett Cooper. Do you know who she is? She is a part of the Daily Wire universe. I don't even know if you can call it that. The Daily Wire verse. You know, like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, all these guys, right? So this is her. Oh no, this is the wrong video. My bad. Hold up. Let's find the video I wanted to look at. God, she posts so bloody much. Right. So this is her. This is the one. You'll have seen her shorts. I think her shorts tend to blow up.
Cooper.
What the fuck? Oh, come on. Her shorts blow up quite a lot, and a lot of her videos do as well. So yeah, she's done a video titled "This is Utterly Ridiculous," and she is reacting to some stuff has gone on with someone somewhere promoting dairy. I don't know exactly who this person is, but this is basically a rant about the dairy industry, and it's pretty bad. And I wanted to react to this with you guys. Now, to give you some of you guys don't know who she is. She is the Daily Wire is a conservative channel, like conservative group. Let's say they have Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Candace Owens. It's like the Avengers of the conservatives, basically, if you want to call them that. It's like they're the team. They're the superheroes of the conservatives. And they just pump out the content, just pump out one after another, boom, 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 constantly pumping out content that is all about the culture war. It's just constantly getting triggered, super reactionary, constant triggerings. And I'll be totally honest with you guys, I'm not just going to roast on them, because even a broken clock is right twice a day. And occasionally, amongst all of this just madness, they put out something. It might just be a couple of sentences. It might be an entire video sometimes, where actually you're like, you know what? That's fair enough. That needed to be called out. That was a good thing to talk about. But most of the content they put out is just getting mad about shit that's not really worth getting mad about. And the reason these people do that is because their audience, their core audience who watches, they want it. They love being outraged. They love getting riled up about the libs, the libtards, right? They love getting outraged by it. So they just constantly, they go on Twitter, they go everywhere looking for whatever's happened recently, and then they put out their videos on it. And yeah, and then people get all riled up in the comments like, yeah, fuck the libs, fuck the libs, and all that shit. And then they get more money, more subscriptions, more views, etc., etc. You know the game. That's kind of the MO of the Daily Wire. As I've said, they have some stuff that's like, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. And then they have most of the stuff, like a good 80% of it is just, oh, the libs, you know? So that's basically what this is all about. This is one of those examples of owning the libs, the libtards. This is one of those examples right here. And I'll tell you some stuff about her as we get into it. But yeah, there's some funny observations to be made here about this Brett Cooper. But I'll hold back for now. We'll get into the video and then I'll point some shit out as we go.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper. Last week, actress Emma Roberts did an ad on her Instagram that literally rocked her fan base.
Now, I don't know who this actress is, by the way, but apparently she's famous and people are upset because she's famous and she did this, but yeah.
Caused her to turn off the comments. She did keep posting about it on her story, but I think she just wanted the conversation to go away. It's actually really serious, and a lot of people thought that it was done in poor taste. She did an advertisement for milk.
Milk was a bad choice.
That's so bad, guys. I can't even take it seriously. I was going to try to make a joke about how awful that was, but it's so absurd that this is something that people are losing their damn minds over. Just watch this.
Hey guys, I wanted to show you how I make my iced lattes with whole milk. I love milk. Milk provides vitamins A and D, zinc and protein, all of which work together to support a healthy immune system.
And also increase your risks of a lot of chronic diseases. And also, more importantly, put animals in positions where farmers shove their hands inside them, shove their arms up to the elbow inside their asses and inject them with semen that was taken from jacking off a bull. And then when they have babies, rip their babies away from them so that they can take all the milk from the mother and give the babies a small amount of milk, if not give them some kind of powdered alternative because they want to sell the milk. Yep, you know, apart from all of that, milk's great. Apart from all of that.
From being on set to my book club, I have no time to be sick. And on top of all...
From being on set to my book club, I have no time to be sick. Oh, life must be so hard for you to be an actress and not have a book club. Oh my God. No time to be sick. No time to be sick when you've worked those jobs, hey? Fucking hell. He sounds like, he sounds like some kind of construction worker or something, working on some skyscraper, building some skyscrapers. No. No time to be sick for that guy. If that guy's sick, he'll fall to his death. But if you're sick, you might have to delay shooting for a couple of days. Oh my God. You might have to pay one of your, top class exclusive doctors to give you some kind of drug that's not available to the public, that these Hollywood types can get a hold of immediately to fix up any kind of problem they have. I'm sure. By the way, I'm sure they have these workarounds, these little things they do. It's obviously they do. They have a sniffles. I'm sure the doctors can give them something that only the elites know about to sort out their sniffles and stuff like that. The way she's talking about, I can't afford to be sick when I'm working down in the mines. Oh, no. No, I need to stay strong for my mining work, for my coal mining work. You're a fucking actress with a book club. Get a grip.
All that, and most importantly, I'm a mom, and keeping mine and my son's immune system healthy is important to me. So milk not only helps me stay active, but it provides vitamins for my son. He's been drinking milk since he's turned 1, and he's constantly growing, and the calcium, vitamin D, and potassium in milk help him achieve his full height potential.
His full height potential! I love it also. She's doing, who gets a latte or whatever it is, an iced latte, and does yoga with it? Like, you don't drink iced latte with the yoga. You have your water bottle. You have your water because guess what? Coffee dehydrates you. It doesn't hydrate you. Why would you be drinking coffee while exercising, you fucking numpty? This whole thing is just hilarious. It's so the reason people are upset, I reckon, it's not necessarily because she's promoting milk, although that is a lot of the reason people are upset. It's because of the fakeness of it. It's just so fake. It's so incredibly fake and forced. And this Brett Cooper, she likes it. And well, she would. Because I don't know if you've noticed, by the way, but her entire channel, her entire image is fake as fuck, right? When she comes back up on the screen in a minute, I'll point some shit out.
And help me stay active and fit.
Why are we yelling about that?
Okay, have a look at this situation here with this Brett Cooper, right? You might notice a couple things. What does that look like in the back right of the set? What do you think that is? Would it be reasonable to say that it looks like a bed? I'd say so, right? It looks like a bed. What about to the left? There's a chest of drawers there. Like drawers that you'd put clothing in, right? Or whatever. Or I think a lot of people put underwear in those type of drawers, don't they? A lot of the time. Okay. Looks like there could be some kind of mirror, to look in once you've got ready. And if you'll notice also, the camera angle. Are you noticing the angle of the camera? Are you noticing how it's up and looking down? Like, actually, if you look at my camera, I look at it, it's more straight ahead, right? But hers is up and down. Do you know why that is? Well, that's because that's what most bedroom streamers do. Streamers that use a webcam, they don't tend to use a more professional setup. They have a webcam and it'll be up on top of the screen they're using, or like up looking down, because I don't know, they do some, it's just what they do. Gamers, I guess, because they want the controller to be like looking down in the shot or something like that. A lot of gamers, a lot of streamers, they go for that up-down approach, that down-looking approach, and they're in their bedrooms most of the time. Well, let me just tell you something quite funny about her. All of this shit that you're seeing here is a set. It's not her bedroom. That's a set. A created set by the Daily Wire. Every single element of this has been chosen by the Daily Wire producers. Her producer is behind the camera, right, with headphones and all that shit, a clipboard, making sure she hits the point she needs to hit and taking notes for the editors and all that kind of shit, right? She's a full team behind the camera. This is a set. So when I say that this is fake as fuck, this ad, and that's why most people probably got pissed at it, as well as the fact that it's promoting milk. Well, of course Brett Cooper doesn't care about it, because she's fake as fuck too. I don't know, I can't attest to whether she as an individual is fake as fuck. Like, maybe she's a nice person, I don't know. But this whole aesthetic is fake. Her acting like, oh yeah, I'm just chilling here reacting to shit, that's fake. The producers will be telling her what to or what not to say. And if she says something that's not okay, it'll get cut out, or she'll be told, don't say it again. This is not any kind of, as Christina puts, girl next door thing going on here. Oh, I'm just a cute girl at home on my stream. Yeah, like those Twitch streamers, those Twitch stream girls that do that. That's basically what they're trying to emulate here, this girl next door thing. And it's just, yeah, so it's no wonder that she doesn't see a problem with all the fakery here. But let's get into her reasoning for not having a problem with this, and then her reactions to some of the comments from people who are pissed off about the ad.
Why? It's absurd. The thing we should be yelling about is the fact that she had her dogs out, and I don't mean the fluffy ones, in half of that video, which definitely weirded me out. But like, aside from the fact that this is just an obviously quickly put together social media collaboration.
It's not a quickly put together social media collaboration. It's been a specifically planned video that's supposed to look like, hey, I'm just a normal person like you, which is exactly what she does, by the way. Yeah, I'm just normal. I'm just a normal person like you. I'm in my bedroom. That's exactly what this actress did. Yeah, I'm normal. I do yoga in my garden next to the pool of my fucking mansion. Yeah, I'm totally normal. I filmed this on an iPhone. It's planned out. It's all planned.
And doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't see anything wrong with it other than the fact that she's promoting, heavily pasteurized milk, other than my favorite raw milk, which actually has active enzymes and probiotics and healthy fats and vitamins and calcium. But I digress. I don't really care what kind of milk you drink, because I am not like a screaming PETA person online.
He needs some milk.
I don't care what kind of milk you drink, because I'm not a screaming PETA person online. Translation, I don't care if you want to drink the milk of cows who've been abused for their milk by people shoving hands inside them, injecting them with the semen from jacked off bulls, killing their babies, and then killing them when they're done with them, because I don't care about animals. That's the translation. Or probably more accurately, I don't want to be seen to care about animal rights, because my audience, my follower base, subscriber base, would get very upset about that if they felt that I was in any way giving up any ground to animal rights activists who have solid points. So instead, I just say blanket statements like, I don't care what you drink, I don't care what you eat, because that's easier and more digestible for my follower base, which is mostly people who don't want to believe or pay attention to what vegans are saying because they're fucking right. Bit more accurate than what she just said, isn't it?
Not a big deal. I watched the video and, oh yeah, that's fine, whatever. I kept scrolling because I'm a normal person. And then I saw people posting about it going, oh my God, can you believe that she did this? Oh my God, look at the comments. This is so insane. Like, people started ripping her to shreds in the comments to the point that, like I said, she turned them off, but that did not deter them. They just went to her other posts and started commenting things like this. Are you for real about that milk ad? Just want you to know that there was zero need to help the milk lobby. It's not good for you. Is it not physically good for you? Or is it not good for your brand? Like, that's a weird taunt. People, this isn't good for you. Like,
yeah, I think what the person meant, and what you realize if you weren't being such a numpty doing an overstimulated reaction because your producer's in your ear going, go bigger, go bigger. If you weren't having that situation, you'd realize, of course, the person was trying to say milk isn't good for you. Because guess what? Most people are waking up to the fact that milk isn't good for you. And I say most people, that doesn't mean most people aren't drinking it anymore, because people do lots of things that aren't good for them, like smoke and drink. But I'm saying most people now, if you bumped into them into the street and said, hey, what do you think about milk? A lot of them would be saying, yeah, I've been thinking about switching to oat milk. Why? I don't know. I've heard it's not good. And also, it's kind of weird when you think about it that we're drinking the milk of another mammal. It's kind of a strange thing. And that actually, we're breastfeeding from another mammal as adults. We're adult humans, and we're breastfeeding from female cows that actually most of the time are quite young themselves. Not that it matters, but yeah, just a weird situation altogether to be wanting to breastfeed at all as an adult. Like some kind of fetish, really, which, by the way, Brett Cooper, as a hardcore conservative, would definitely take issue with people promoting breastfeeding as some kind of fetish. She got upset about this woman having her tits out even. I didn't even notice this woman had her tits out in the video, but yeah, Brett Cooper has an issue with that woman having her tits out, but she's got no issue with people drink breastfeeding as adults, breastfeeding from cows as some kind of weird fetish for their milk. Is that not a bit weird? A bit fetishy? Is that not a bit more of a problem than someone making a video with their tits not even out? As I said, I don't even realize that the woman even had the puppies out. So yeah, I'd say so. I'd say that's a little bit more demented, breastfeeding from another animal.
Like, we're going to remember this. Do I care? No. Somebody else said, humans are the only animal that drinks another animal's milk. Please be educated about these issues before you accept getting paid for promoting false narratives. Like, what is the false narrative in that?
The false narrative in that was that she was painting dairy milk, cow's milk, as some kind of wholesome, beautiful thing that goes in line with yoga and health and blah, blah, blah. When the reality is the industry that it comes from actively abuses innocent animals and then kills them so that people can have something that's not even necessary, that the vast majority of people in the developed world can absolutely do without and still be perfectly healthy, if not healthier than before. That's the false narrative she's pushing in that video. Explained. There you go. There's your answer.
She didn't lie about that. You can disagree with her drinking the milk, but she's not lying. It's like when I don't lie about how the post office sucks, which is why I love stamps.com.
No, we're not letting you advertise on my... And by the way, that little clip there, that little segue, by the way, is just the perfect example of how this is put together as supposed to be random, like what I'm doing here. Right? I sometimes write out some bullet points for myself, but today there's no bullet points at all. This is just me off the cuff. This is real. She is giving the impression that it's real, but the reality is that it's not. It's very scripted. It's perfectly scripted to the point where she's talking about, she's not lying or whatever the segue was, so she can get into her promo. I would put money on the fact that she's got someone in her ear telling her what to say next, and that's why the headphones are on. I would bet on that, and I would also bet that she would lie about it, as I think it would be really embarrassing to have to face up to the fact that you are not the public figure you think you are, and that you're basically just a talking head for some producer from the Daily Wire. I think that would never be. They can never admit that. Of course, she can never admit that. I have seen her claim that she writes her own stuff. I don't believe her. I have seen the claim that she made this whole studio herself. I don't believe her. I don't believe that she designed her own studio. I don't believe that she writes her own bits. The reason I say that is that why would you design a studio that looks like a bedroom? That is clearly a Daily Wire put together thing. Clearly. Of course they wanted to appeal to a new market. She didn't put that together. And the second point, that she's writing her own stuff, and she's not just a talking head for the Daily Wire. The amount of content they put out is insane. There is no chance in hell she's able to write out these entire videos and then perform them as well. She must be filming. She wouldn't have time to do anything else other than write and film every day. And I don't believe she's doing that at all. Because if you're spending all day writing, there's no way you have got the energy to get on camera and be as vibrant and energetic as this. And like, it doesn't go like that. When you spend an entire day scripting and researching and looking for stuff, you are tired. And filming isn't really on the cards necessarily, unless you want to be a little bit low on energy. Right? So, no, her team's writing it for her. She comes in, she gets the instructions through the headset, super confident, super easy, off the cuff, because it's all pre-prepared, pre-packaged in a nice little shiny bow on top, and then it's put out to the public as some kind of like, yeah, this is off-the-cuff reaction, yeah. Bullshit.
Click the microphone at the top of the page and enter comments that are insane. It'll help you save time and for me, and even very important so I can get back to reading all of these comments that are insane. The dairy promo is disgusting, and even worse how Emma handled it. How did she handle it? She made a latte with milk. Like 90% of the population goes to coffee shops. Oh, is regular milk fine? Yes, it is. We move on with our lives. How she handled it.
Yeah, how she handled it was, as I said, trying to create some kind of wholesome, pathetic, like wholesome raw video of her talking about, yeah, you know, I don't have time to get sick with my work as an actress, getting paid loads of money to just pull faces and say words in a certain way, and then go to my book club. Book club and acting. I don't have time to get sick. Yeah, sure. So yeah, this wholesome thing she was putting together, the yoga, that was the problem. Like she put it out in this way, like it was some beautiful thing, spiritual almost. That's what the person's getting at. Brett Cooper knows this, but it's not her job to be impartial or to be reasonable. It's her job to get people fired up in the comments section. That's basically what she's doing. And yeah, I love that we stopped on that screenshot, because that is literally just the perfect representation of her in this video.
What do you mean? Go touch grass. Get a life. Stop commenting under this girl's posts.
Well, they're fans of her, aren't they? And like it or not, everyone's got a voice these days. And if someone's a fan of someone famous and they do something stupid, like take a shitload of money to promote something that most people are starting to wake up to and see they've been propagandized into drinking the milk of another species of mammal as adults, then they're starting to get pissed off when the milk industry keeps trying to pay off people to promote their bullshit that also abuses animals. Yes, if an actor or actress that you like does that, it's disappointing. And then social media, the thing is, right, if you're an actress, famous, and you want to use social media to I don't know why you would do it, to be honest with you. I fucking wouldn't do it. If I was an actor, I wouldn't have social media, because I would want to maintain my image. I wouldn't want to connect with the fans through social media or anything like that. It's too fucking risky. I would want to just keep doing my acting shit and let fans see the movies and see my interviews with interviewers I trust. I would control that shit like crazy. But if these people are stupid enough to have social media and engage with the regular people, then they also have to be ready that if they take a shitload of money to promote products that abuse animals, that their fans might come on there and be like, hey, fuck you. That's the risk that she took when she opened social media. No one, you know, if you're in the public eye to that level where you're super famous, you can't have it both ways. You either want to take money to promote stupid shit to your fans, and then risk them turning on you, or don't take the money to promote shit, don't promote shit, or better yet, don't have a social media account. If you're super famous, just stay off it. You don't need it. Have a private social media with you and your friends, or have a social media like some of these actors and actresses do, where they just post stuff about the movies they're in. Hey, yeah, like Tom Cruise does that, I'm pretty sure. He just posts stuff about, oh yeah, I'm really excited. I'm on the set for the new Mission Impossible. I'm flying a fucking helicopter. And you're like, Tom Cruise is awesome. You know, at the end of the day, that's all you need to know about them. I don't give a fuck what they're drinking. I don't give a fuck they do yoga. Who gives a shit? I don't know. Write a book about it. If you don't want to get the backlash on social media, tell someone in an interview. You can't complain about it. If you're a massive, famous social figure, you can't complain about backlash. It's like, it's going to happen. Don't take money to promote stupid shit if you don't want it to happen.
Anyway, they went on, lost a long-term 20-plus year fan. When you have a platform, use it for good. Do the environment and the animals a favor and rethink that promo. Here's another one. Just saw your milk ad. Do you realize?
Yeah, can you, hey, Brett, Why did you
the environment, the animals a favor, and rethink that promo here.
do the animals a favor? Can we comment on that, Brett? Do you think, here guys, take the votes from now. Do you think Brett Cooper comments anything about animals and ethics in this entire video? Yes or no? Have a guess.
There's another one. Just saw your milk ad. Do you realize how much harm it causes to animals and the environment? How does it hurt the environment?
Oh, look at that. What a surprise. She went straight for environment and didn't talk about animals. I wonder if she'll come back to that.
Cows grazing on grass. Existing is objectively a net positive thing for the environment. Even if the crazy people tell you that it's not, it is. I'm just saying, objectively, cows just walking around munching on grass is better for the environment than growing all of your almonds. I'm just going to say, you can drink almond milk. I like almond milk. It's totally fine, but you have to admit, producing almond milk produces more CO2. You have to clear land in order to grow the damn almonds when you could just let cows graze. It's really not that crazy. She goes,
So, interesting. Okay, so I didn't realize that the only alternative to drinking cow's milk was almond milk. I had no idea that, I mean, we need some kind of milk to survive as adults, clearly. We can't just not drink cow's milk and drink other things, like water, for example. No. And get our nutrition from other things, that don't involve milk. No. We only have to drink almond milk or cow's milk. That's exactly how it works. There's also these things called rice milk. That's also pretty oat milk, soy milk. So if you've got a problem with almonds using too much water, there's 3 other choices for you. And again, there is that other option of just you don't need milk in your life. You don't need it. Imagine if you're not someone who drinks coffee, then you don't need any kind of oat or almond or anything. You can just not drink coffee. And then when else would you ever need milk in your life? Cereal. Okay, well, you could also have other breakfasts. You don't need to eat cereal or oats or anything like that. Smoothies don't necessarily even need milk. You can blend up bananas, frozen bananas, and they add a lot of creaminess to a smoothie. So what is this? Where do they get this idea that milk is a necessity? It isn't. But if you want it, there are ways to get it without lots of water consumption. It's so dishonest to say it's either almond milk or it's cow's milk. And let's not forget, let's get back to her point about cows grazing is objectively good for the environment. Yeah. I mean, apart from the fact that most of them aren't fucking grazing, most of them are in factory farms, actually, and they never see the light of day. If they do see the light of day, it's from a small, muddy pen, and before they are eventually sent off to a slaughterhouse. It's these ideas that you've got of rolling meadows with just cows grazing. Well, A, it's not happening, not on a scale large enough to give milk to feed the entire population with milk, or even like a small percentage of the population with milk. And B, if we did try to do that, if we did try to graze all the animals and feed everybody milk with only animals that graze, there wouldn't be anywhere near enough land to do it, because there's that much of a big demand for dairy that there's literally billions of cows. So it's like, what are you talking about? Have you ever looked into what you're saying? And fuck the environmental side of things anyway. Focus on animals here, because it doesn't matter. If something is environmentally friendly, it doesn't matter if it requires violence to innocent animals. It doesn't matter. You could literally go out and drop a nuke on not even nuke. Let's imagine it's a nuke that has no radioactive properties. It just explodes and just wipes some people out, and then there's no damage done apart from that, right? Let's imagine it's like it's a nuke that doesn't impact any other life apart from humans. If you did dropped one of those and wiped out 50% of humans, the environment would benefit in a way that would just be phenomenal good, like so good. But why don't we do that? If we had the technology, why wouldn't we do it? Well, because we're not going to go and massacre loads of people for the environment TM, for the planet TM, right? So then why do you think breeding and killing innocent animals who are not human, fine, they're not human, but they have all the things that make them as valuable in the ways that matter, i.e. they suffer, they have friends, they have feelings, they have families, they have cognition, the cognition at the level of a human child. They're vulnerable and defenseless, and they're sentient, innocent beings. So if you wouldn't wipe out 50% of the human population, or like if you wouldn't wipe out loads of children for the environment, to make the environment better, save the environment, TM, why would you do that and wipe out billions of these animals for the environment, TM? Well, the answer is you bloody shouldn't. You keep going and you keep looking for new ways, because the alternative is some kind of animal genocide, and that's not on the cards, because we're not evil, sick people. What Brett would probably call this is something like demonic. These conservatives like to talk about demonic things. Things being, I don't know, when something's evil, they say, this is demonic, these are demons at work. That sounds pretty damn demonic to me. Oh, I'm going to save the planet by condemning billions of innocent, sentient beings to a life of imprisonment, slavery, and then slit their throats and eat their bodies because I've convinced myself that it's good for the planet and we're going to save the world. Or I've convinced myself that it's just the only way to get nutrition. Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Dillian, thank you so much for the tip, mate. It says, watch Slaughterbots. I don't know what that is. What's that? What's Slaughterbots? I'll Google it. But I don't know what that is. Oh my God, I can't type right now. Oh, it's a movie. I will check it out. Thank you. Sci-fi short film. Okay, yeah, I'll check it out. I don't know if we can watch it if it's like it's a short film. I don't know if it'll be copyrighted if it's like a short film, but I will watch it I'll watch it privately, and I might run it by YouTube. I might upload it with like a reaction and see what happens, and see if it gets copyrighted or not. Because with these short films, I've noticed they can be a little bit tricky sometimes. All right, cheers for the tip though, mate, and the suggestion. I will check that out. But yeah. Cool. All right, let's continue with this ridiculous take.
Goes on and she says, being paid by the milk lobby to advocate for milk is disgusting. Plus you share lies. How can we need something our species was never supposed to consume? Human milk for humans, cow milk for calves.
Yeah, is she going to respond to the actual critiques here, or is she going to go off on a tangent? Let's see.
I think we've been drinking this for a very long time. Calm down. Somebody else.
We've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, as if that's... Come on, man. This is schoolyard level comeback, schoolyard level answer. But we've been doing it for a long time. Do I need to go through a list of all the things that we've done for a long time that we no longer do now because we realized that they were all kinds of fucked up? Brett Cooper, you're a woman. You're sat here with a paid job doing whatever you want. Do I need to explain to you that just because we've done something for a long time doesn't make it okay? Do you want to look up the history of women in the West or women globally? Do you want us to look up that together, or do you want to look it up yourself and realize that something being a certain way for a long time doesn't make it okay? I think it's pretty clear, isn't it? That we can't just morally justify something by, well, it's always been like this. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think we need to go any further with that point. I think I'm moving towards these days entrusting people to realize this shit without clear examples, just giving them the hints of, hey, have a think about what you've said, have a think about history, have a think about the history of your sex specifically, or if they are not white, I say have a think about the history of, people from your part of the world in this part of the world, and then come back to that point and tell me if you still stand by it, because you probably don't.
Gail said, I used to love you as an actress, but not anymore after seeing you drink breast milk. There's pus cell in cow's milk. I suggest you look into the dairy industry. Okay, now, obviously, there are bad players and bad parts of every industry.
Bad players and bad parts of every industry is not what leads to there being pus in cow's milk. There is an acceptable amount of pus in all cow's milk that the FDA, is in your food, whatever they call it. I don't know what it stands for. I'm not American. But they approve foods, right? They tell you what's allowed in, what's not allowed in, etc., etc. There is a specific amount of pus that is permitted to be in cow's milk for it to be safe for consumption. It's not about bad players. It's just how it is. A lot of people don't know that, which is pretty interesting. And also the bad apples thing. Look, what I've said already, shoving your arm inside a cow and injecting them with semen from jacked off bulls, that's not bad players, standard practice. Killing cows when they no longer produce as much milk as before, standard practice. Separating them from their babies so you can either sell the baby to a slaughterhouse to be killed for veal or whatever. That's pretty much the only reason they'd sell them off, to be honest. Or if they're a female, then they would use them for the milk as well. Standard practice. This is all standard. There's not bad players. This is how it is.
There's a reason why I drink a specific kind of milk, and I buy it locally, just like I prefer to know where my produce comes from and where my meat comes from. This would be a great opportunity to tell you about Good Ranchers, but I don't have an ad for them today.
Yeah, okay, if it's so local and you're so happy with it, why don't you go spend a day and actually watch everything they do? Go and ask them, hey, show me some artificial insemination that you do on the animals. Hey, show me what you do with the baby cows, the male calves that are born here. Where do they go? Can I follow them to the slaughterhouse and see it? Hey, what about when a cow gets old? Can I watch her get shot in the head and have the throat slit? Can I watch that? Oh, with the meat and the meat stuff you're talking about. Oh, local meat. Okay, go to your chicken farm. Go to your cow farms that are killing them for meat. Go from birth and follow them all the way through and watch the age they go to the slaughterhouse and watch how it can be range from a couple of months to just under a year. These are baby animals that you're paying for people to kill so you can eat their dead bodies. Go on. If this local, Brett, and if you're so confident about what you're saying here, make a video about it. See if your producers at Daily Wire will come up and let you do that one, hey? If you write your own videos, you write your own scripts, which you claim, well, go and do it then. Write that script and then try and put it on YouTube and watch YouTube not allow it because it's too graphic, because it's basically, because it's, well, they might allow it. To be fair, they allow Dominion, so they may allow it. But I'm not sure your subscribers will like it because they don't want to face reality, and neither do you. You're full of shit.
Just because I or anyone else am intentional and careful about what we choose to buy, that does not make the entire product bad. Logic doesn't work like that. This woman is not a bad person because she chooses to drink milk and, God forbid, promotes drinking milk.
Well, no, I wouldn't say she's a bad person, but she's made a very bad decision. She made a poor choice for the reasons that I've already been through. I'm not going to repeat myself. But Brett is oversimplifying this issue. She's oversimplifying the reason people are pissed off. She's gone into the environmental argument, but she's avoided the animals argument for good reason, because she knows she's got fuck all good to say about it, and she knows that if she gets into animal ethics and animal rights, she'll look a twat, because she knows vegans are right.
Milk. It does a body good.
We have bigger issues in this world right now than freaking out about one actress drinking milk.
Yeah, we do. But here you are making an 8-minute video about it. So shut the fuck up. We talk about the things that are viral. We talk about the things that are in the news. We get the same criticism. People get the same criticism. They say stuff like, when comedians are talking about, for example, I don't know, whatever topic, they talk about LGBT stuff. They rip on LGBT community sometimes. They rip on, I don't know, President Biden. They rip on Trump. They rip on, and people say, oh, why do you care so much about LGBT? Why do you care so much about Biden? Why do you care so much about Trump? Oh my God, so lame. If you're so over it, if you're so like, if you hate them so much, like, why don't you just like move on, scroll on like a normal person, and you just go on with your life? Well, because when this shit hits the media, when specific stories hit the news, and every fucker's talking about it, as people who are in the public domain, like Brett Cooper, or like the people on Instagram, or like myself, it's not like we absolutely necessarily give a shit about the topic at hand, but if the topic is something everyone's talking about, then you'll talk about it. It's not always just about scrolling by. It sometimes is about, well, if everyone's interested in this thing for right now, then let's comment on it. And if you're a comedian or a public commentator or a YouTuber, it's, as I said, it doesn't mean you necessarily care about it. It's just, and it doesn't mean that you'll necessarily spend your entire life devoted to it. These people dropping these comments, it's not like they're all going to spend their entire lives hating this woman. It's just that she posted a fucking video about promoting dairy, so people are reacting to it. And then they will move on with their lives. And if Brett Cooper's got a problem with that, and she's just a hypocrite, because she's here doing exactly that. Now she's here reacting to those comments. So, hey, Brett Cooper, oh my God, why don't you just scroll by those comments? Why did you have to make a whole video about it? You see the point? It's the same shit.
Calm down. But the internet was still up in arms about it. There were multiple articles about her doing this. Emma Roberts accused of selling her soul thanks to controversial post. Surprisingly, though, people on Twitter actually had a sense of humor about it. I thought that they were going to be losing their damn minds, but they weren't. They were actually making jokes. Like this person. Oh my God, I just saw Emma Roberts doing an IG ad for real milk. Milk is trying to have a renaissance, honey. She is pissed at the milks. It's just so weird to me. Like, drink your almond milk. I don't care. Like I said, I've had almond milk. I like almond milk, but spelling it that way, it's so weird. But
it's here's another example of her just not looking up stuff before she makes stupid comments, or more accurately, her producer's not looking stuff up. So the milk with the Y, the reason they call it that is because of stupid laws and dumbass farmers who kick off when vegans put milk, M-I-L-K, but it's not milk, you can't call it milk. They get all angry and protest and shit. So in a lot of states, I suppose in the US and some parts of Europe, they've made it illegal to do it. So they have to use the Y and spell it that way. You'd know that if you did a 5-minute Google search.
But interestingly enough, I was doing some research, and the milk thing is not new for her. And I cannot believe that I just said that sentence, the milk thing, but like this was in 2022. Here's a photo of her. She has a milk carton purse. The girl loves milk. Here's an even earlier photo from like 2017. She still has the milk carton purse.
Yeah, it's a milk carton purse. It's like some kind of retro thing. It's just a purse. It's like when people I've seen purses shaped as all kinds of shit just because it's like cool and retro or whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean she loves milk. What a stupid conclusion.
She is not selling her soul to Big Milk. She's not selling out.
Also, by the way, you didn't do any fucking research. Your producers did. Shut up.
I think she genuinely just likes milk. Like, I'm so sorry if that's crazy or if that's earth-shattering to you that somebody has a preference about something, but I think she just really likes milk. And, like, I cannot believe I'm saying this seriously, but that's not a crime, no matter how many times PETA tries to prove it is. Like, do you guys remember that article from a few years ago? I pulled it up. They said, why cow's milk is the perfect drink for supremacists. That was
Yeah, that's dumb as fuck. I am with her on that point.
Legit article. That's not Babylon Bee. That's not satire. It's not just them. The New York Times. Why white supremacists are chugging milk and why geneticists are alarmed. And this one, white power milk, milk dietary racism, and the alt-right. Like, get a grip, people. It is just...
This is what I'm trying to tell you. Broken clocks can be right twice a day. She's right. Those are fucking stupid articles, and I'm going to put my money on it, but it's by some kind of woke idiot who's trying to tie in intersectional issues with like, oh, we're going to try and make the plight of the animals, and we're going to connect it with racisms, because then we can intersect these points and I can be some kind of fucking, I don't know. It's so stupid. And I remember those articles, and I remember I've not read them since I read them then, but I read them then. I was like, this is so fucking stupid and so backwards, and no one's going to be convinced. The only people that'll be convinced by trying to tie in milk drinking with white supremacy will be the people who are already vegan, or the very tiny minority of people who are convinced by that kind of shit. And they're not the majority. The majority of people, unfortunately, are like Brett here. Very reactionary towards vegan stuff. Uneducated on it, and just barking and shouting stupid opinions either on social media or on a microphone on YouTube. I don't think she's a bad person. I mean, I've roasted her a little bit, but only because it's funny, and she's a big YouTuber. I'm sure she can take it. 2.25 million subs. But ultimately, my goal is to convince people like this to stop being like this and to just open the eyes. You can be your reactionary fucking conservative self. You can join that culture war and scream and shout about all these different topics all you want. That's fine. But the thing is, they are not actively participating in the harming and killing and stabbing and abuse of others when they make videos just kind of I don't know, commenting on culture war stuff. It's not like she then goes and hurts somebody from the communities that she's criticizing. But in this case, she does. This is different than all of the other topics that she will talk about, because this one has direct consequences, life or death, directly by her hand. And it's no laughing matter, right? So my goal is to convince people like this, to make people like this realize that, hey, look, you put in veganism in a bucket with all these other topics you talk about, but it's not the same. It is not. These other topics and not life and death. This one is. Here's why you should take it more seriously, even as a conservative, because conservatives, I don't know, these guys are supposed to value nature, they're supposed to value life, they're supposed to be that they're usually pro-life, they're usually talking about saving saving unborn children, stuff like that. So going by that, if they are actually consistent, they should also care about the lives that are actually already born, even though they're not human. It doesn't matter that they're not human. The things that make them important are the things that we all have and that human children have. They deserve protection. So that's what I hope to do with my channel, is to get people like this to realize that, because it really is. It is not something. Yeah, I say it one more time. I'll repeat that one point because I think it's important. When these people comment on lots of other topics, there is no other topic they deal with that directly handles life and death. There's no other topic she'll deal with where she can directly cause someone to be killed or not. The animal rights one is like that. It is that. So it's so important. And I hope she sees this video. I hope that her followers see this video. I will clip this part out as well of the whole stream and put it up as a separate thing.
Just milk. You do not need to tie everything back to power and elitism and racism. Calm down. Chill.
This is intersectionality that she's arguing against here, and I agree. Trying to tie everything into white supremacy is fucking stupid. But they try and do it all the time. There's actually a list of things that you can see now where it's like an everything is racist list that someone sent me the other day. And it's all these articles where they've tried to link racism in with everything. There's maths is racist. I don't know. There was something like, I don't know. There was so many stupid examples, and I can't even remember most of them now. But yeah, people desperately try to make everything about racism, don't they? And trying to make veganism somehow, or like anti-veganism linked with it. Oh God, it's just, as I said, it only appeals to a tiny minority of people. It does not appeal to the majority of people who are just like Brett. So I think we just need to stop fucking doing that and start focusing on arguments and points that more appeal to the vast majority of people who are conservative, especially when it comes to animals. They're conservative. That's why they keep eating what they're eating. We need to think like them and try to convince them in the ways that make sense to them, not by trying to link fucking drinking milk with racism. That's not doing it, guys. It's not going to work.
It's really not that big of a deal. This is how I feel right now.
She is a fantastic talent. These people should shut the up, back the off, and let this woman just shine her light, because she is fantastic.
Everybody calm down. It's only Monday. We need to ease into this week, not be freaking out about people drinking milk. If you don't like milk, if you don't want to drink it, that's fine. Keep drinking your milk, or however you spell it. Or if you're my best friend Amir, keep dipping your cookies in water and putting cereal with water, even though that's incredibly weird. That's literally a psychopath trait, but that's what he does. If you like milk, drink it. Everybody can calm down. There are bigger issues at hand. Let's please move on.
Yeah, I mean, the whole bigger issues at hand thing is kind of ironic considering she did this 8-minute video about it, but whatever. So I've said all I've needed to say there. Just a load of kind of misinterpreting and purposefully misrepresenting what people were angry about for the sake of getting the followers riled up, which is this is the MO of a lot of the Daily Wire people, unfortunately. The bit about PETA was solid, though. Stop fucking trying to make everything into a race thing. So sick of that right now. Race baiting needs to stop. And vegans, don't ever race bait. Please don't race bait, guys. It just puts us directly in this category of what people think we already are. And we're not all like that. Actually, most vegans are not these, kind of idiots that would try to be like, oh, eating meat is white supremacy and toxic masculinity. It's fucking stupid. It's not. Most people do it, and they're not all toxic masculine men, and they're not all racists, yeah? It's nothing to do with that. It's a ridiculous statement to make. Let's just fucking try and be convincing with people and talk to them in the ways that we think is going to convince them based on what they're interested in, based on their lives, based on who they are, and based on who we are, of course, because we shouldn't be fake. But please don't do that shit, guys. Please, come on. Samira, thank you so much for the tip. Says, I know this is off topic, but I can never figure out why people love their pets so much and know they feel pain, happy, sad, feel all the emotions, yet they are so fucking proud to eat steak, cooked rare, raw milk, blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much, David. Yeah, it's just a massive disconnect between the animal they have at home and the animal in a slaughterhouse or in a farm. They will never see the animals in farms, but they see their animal at home daily. So they develop this emotional connection with that animal, and they ignore these other animals. But I've heard a lot of people who've gone vegan because of seeing the dog at home and seeing a video and realizing that they're the same. Like a video of a cow or a chicken or you know, and then they go, oh my God, what am I doing? I've seen that. But yeah, it is very upsetting that people don't make that connection more often. Although I think a lot of people do make that connection. So there is some hope, but we just got to keep on going, Samira. We just got to keep on doing what we can, as much as we can, to keep trying to get people to actually connect and realize that they do care about animals, and these animals, even though they're behind a wall, it doesn't mean they're less valuable than the one that sat on your lap, right? Gorik, thank you so much for the tip, mate. I don't know what's worse, the things she's saying, the way she's saying them, or just her voice alone. I'm pretty sure she loves dogs and cats, but fuck cows, right? I just can't anymore with these morons using their voice to defend animal abuse. I understand, Gorik. It's rough, mate. And she, to her credit, she's just ignorant. I don't think she's as bad as others. She's ignorant. I would take ignorance over conscious anti-veganism. In her case, she's just like everybody else. She's not looked into the stuff. If she has looked into it, she's not really gone deep into it. She's not fully understood what she's arguing against, right? At this point, she gets more credit than an anti-vegan in my eyes, because I'm just giving her the benefit of the doubt that, okay, with the right approach, with the right information, with the thing, if things landed in a certain way, she'd probably be more reasonable and understanding. I'm going to give that charitable take for now. Unlike others out there, anti-vegans who know everything, or even people, ex-vegans, who know everything, been there, seen it, been inside farms, been in slaughterhouses, documented, saved animals, and then they start doing it again. No, those people are a different type of evil. They're absolutely despicable. In her case, Gorik, if it makes you feel any better, I don't think she's in that category. I don't think she's quite as bad as them or anywhere even close to them. And I think there's always a possibility that she would come around, but not publicly. This is the problem with these guys. If you're ever expecting them to come around and actually consider the animal rights message publicly, you'll be waiting for, don't hold your breath. You'll be holding it forever. They won't come around publicly. Privately, definitely more of a chance. Definitely. Off camera. Mojka became a member. Welcome to the Ram Fam, Mojka. Welcome. Love that. Guys, you can all join the Ram Fam. You're all welcome to join the Ram Fam. You get that cool green logo and green text if you do, which is pretty awesome, right? It's pretty awesome. And I always say a personal hello to you. I look for you guys in the Ram Fam, like Hexproof Anarchist. Hello. Dillion's here. What's up, Christina, Samira? Hello, guys. Who else we got in here? Mojka, who's just joined. That is very cool. Welcome. Is that everyone for the Ram Fam today so far? Ram Fammers, you can leave some comments so I can see if you're in here. So yeah, very cool. Very cool. We have another video to take a look at from Earthling Ed. I heard on the grapevine that he did a debate about plant feelings or some shit. Is this what happened? Which I find today. Still Brett Cooper. No. Yeah, let's have a look at what happened with Earthling Ed then in this new video. He did some kind of look, check this out. Earthling Ed debating screaming tomatoes on live TV. I saw this pop up and I was like, for real? He's been on TV talking about plant feelings? Are you kidding me? You get Earthling Ed on your show to talk about plant feelings. Earthling Ed, of all the things you could have spoken to him about, he's debated all these people. He's teaching at Harvard. He's made a documentary. One of his short movies just won awards, or has been nominated for awards. And you bring him on to chat about tomatoes or some shit. Like, what? Are you for real? I mean, come on now. But look, I've not seen it though. So shall we have a look? Let's have a look.
A new study from researchers in Israel has revealed that tomato plants scream when they're picked from their stems. So they emit airborne sounds similar to bubble wrap being popped. And that is detectable from more than 3 feet away and can be heard by animals. So what does this mean for the plant-based diet crowd and their insistence on ethical eating? With me now, I'm very pleased to say, it's another Ed. I think a better Ed there. Ed Winters, who goes by Earthling Ed, is a vegan activist. How are you?
I'm very well, Patrick. How are you?
OK, right, so can you talk me through this? Now, we did check, I did check earlier whether or not it was going to offend you if we had some tomatoes in front of you and if I did remove them from their stem. You said no.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we kind of missed...
Fucking hell, man. Ed seems like immediately like he's just done with this. Just the way, yeah, it just seems automatically done with it. By the way, I'm just going to point something out here. They fucked him over with the makeup department here. They've made him look pasty as fuck. I know that it's not a particularly saturated video overall, but I mean, the lighting or the makeup, they fucked Ed on this one. And I know that they do this because they also did it with... oh my God, why have I just totally blanked on his name? Do you know when you go to think of a name and it's there, and then it's Nathan McGovern, that's the name, Nathan McGovern. They did it with him, and he mentioned how he told me that they specifically did it. He saw them doing it, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'll just let him do it." But that was on that was Piers Morgan. This is GBN. But yeah, they've definitely done that.
Misrepresented the report a little bit.
Right.
The word "scream" isn't cited.
So let's go back because Ed started.
Going to offend you if we had some tomatoes in front of you and if I did remove them from their stem. You said no.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we kind of misrepresented the report a little bit.
Right.
The word "scream" isn't cited in the report. Either is the word pain or sentience or suffering. Really, all we discovered was that plants will release certain popping sounds due to what they believe is cavitation, which is basically the releasing of gas. So much like bacteria also emit frequencies, so do plants as well. But it doesn't mean that they suffer or feel pain.
So they don't suffer or feel pain, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about now, for people who are not wanting to eat meat for ethical reasons.
Yeah.
You know, there are these occasional reports that seem to pop up about potentially, you know, plants being able to communicate with each other or feel things, etc. What's your view on that, then? Do you think that plants can feel things?
No, they don't have a subjective experience, which is what sentience is, which is what you and I have, and indeed animals have as well. They're intelligent, of course, but so are bacteria and viruses. They're also intelligent. But what I always say to people is, if you're genuinely concerned about plants, let's say that you think, hang on a minute, there's some good evidence that plants suffer. Well, the majority of the plants that we're growing in the UK are being used as animal feed anyway. So even as a vegan myself, I'm actually reducing animal and plant suffering by adopting a plant-based diet at the same time.
OK, I mean, that is fascinating. And can I ask, what were the main reasons for you becoming a vegan then? Presumably animal suffering, was it?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like how, because that point was dealt with so efficiently and just to the point where there's nowhere else to go here now, right? Now he's got to fill in the gap. There's still time. So he asks him why he went vegan, which is great from Ed, because he didn't... I really appreciate how he cut to the chase. He shut the point down politely without making a mockery of the guy, without fooling, you know, making the guy feel getting his back up and stuff. Nailed it. 1 minute 50. We're done with the plants shit. Now, this guy has to fill in the gap. Now we get to hear some stuff from Ed, which is just masterful TV interviewing here. From Ed, I mean, from the other guy. The other guy's being fair as well. This is what happens when you have a reason. I can't even remember the last time I saw a reasonable TV interview, honestly. This is actually so refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, the question I ask myself is, if I can live in a way that reduces animal suffering, why wouldn't I? And I guess that's maybe a question I could ask you. If you could live in a way that reduces animal suffering, why wouldn't you?
I love meat.
Yeah? So do you think that the enjoyment of something justifies causing harm to animals?
I think it's a tough one, really, because I also look, from my perspective, I get that I'm a massive hypocrite. I don't mind saying this, because I would not want to kill a cow.
But you pay someone to do it on your behalf.
But I pay someone to do it on my behalf.
Right, so I want to analyse this as well. Ed was asked, why are you a vegan, Ed? And he gave like a 5 or 6 seconds, something like that. And then he just went, what about you? Boom. He's got on there and he started a debate with the guy and not allowed the guy to interview him about why he's vegan. Banging. I love this version of Ed. This is awesome.
I regularly order it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think whether or not I had beef last night. I don't think I did last night, but I would eat it, right, all the time.
How do you morally justify that, then?
I either don't think about it, or justify it on the grounds that me stopping doing it, I don't think would have any impact whatsoever.
What if everyone says that, though? What changes then?
Well, if everyone does it, then it would stop, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
But they're not going to, are they?
Well, a lot of people already are. And if we want to create a world which is more ethical and reduces animal suffering as far as possible, then a shift to veganism is the only
No,
way
I get that. If everyone went vegan, no, there's no disputing that. If everyone was vegan, then fewer animals would die as a result of human consumption. Yeah,
and that would be a good thing, right?
I think potentially it would be a good thing, but I would say that I think that there are a lot of nutritional benefits when it comes to eating genuine meat, and I know that people say that they can be replicated in a plant-based diet and all
Which
of this
nutrients
stuff.
are you referring to?
Well, I just think there's lots of proteins, etc., aren't there? And I would be intrigued to know about early years development. So this is one thing that I could probably do with knowing a bit more about. But when it comes to babies and young adults, etc., and toddlers and things like that, is it any more unhealthy for them to not eat any meat? So if they were just reared as vegans or vegetarians, for example, would that have any issue when it came to or animal products, so even things like milk, for example, like, so calcium and all this stuff? Go on, talk me through it.
Well, I mean, nutrients are important for everyone at every stage of life, and the important question is whether or not everyone can get those nutrients. Protein's a classic one. You can get more than enough protein in plants. That's supported by the British Dietetic Association, the NHS, the American Dietetic Association, and even on the point of kids, when you look at the body of evidence and you look at the dietetic associations around the world, these are basically the associations where all of the nutrition and dietitian experts are involved in them. They point to the fact that a well-planned plant-based diet is healthy for everyone, including children.
What gets wheeled out every now and again is, I think avocados are often used as an example of this, aren't they? Where they say, well, by the time that you've grown avocados or you've made way for various different plantation crops, and you might have had to have reduced what was originally growing there in some South American country or something, and then shipped it over here.
I'm really disappointed in this guy now. See, Ed did a great job of turning it around on him. Not in a mean way, but in a kind way of like, hey, let's talk about what you think. So he said, I like meat and I don't think it make a difference. Okay. We agree that's not a good way to go about things, is it? You don't think hurting animals is okay for something you like? No, I don't. And if everyone said it will make a difference, what would the world be like? Yeah, you're right. It probably would be better if everyone went vegan. Yeah, okay, cool. But like nutrition though, like which ones are you worried about? I mean, yeah, I guess, okay. Yeah, I guess I don't really know that. Okay. But nutrition in kids though, yeah, you see, here's these associations that say it's fine, kids. We can get nutrition from plants. So yeah. Okay then. Yeah. Okay. So avocados are bad for the planet, bro. Come on, man. Really? Is that where you want to end this? What a shame that this guy, he's embarrassed himself here a little bit. But then again, the interview was never about him. He's been kind of, if anything, the interviewer, he can act as a kind of a straw man for Ed, if that makes sense. Because the interviewer's, he's been put on blast, but it's not his job to be put on blast. So, but if Ed just sat there and just reeled off loads of facts, people would be like, who is this guy? Some kind of human encyclopedia? This is boring. So if anything, this interviewer is I don't know, you could call it a punching bag or a straw man for Ed just to test the stuff on, if that makes sense. So Ed asks a question, what about you? And this guy gives an excuse. It's good for the viewer because they get to see this guy pumping out some excuses and they get to see Ed respond. And actually, unlike Piers Morgan, Ed gets a chance to fully respond to the points. So, okay, then this guy is as an individual, he's not doing a great job. He's bouncing from point to point. As an interviewer and the show and what this means for the public, this is pretty good. It's pretty good, isn't it?
When you add it all up, it's been worse for the environment than if I just killed a pig and ate it.
But that's incorrect.
Right.
Pigs in the UK are fed soy as well as other types of feed. The biggest driver of deforestation, the two biggest drivers of deforestation in South America, cattle farming for beef and leather, and also soybeans as well, which the vast majority from South America, 96% in fact, fed to animals in this country.
Just very quick, because we're a bit pressed for time, but how would you, are we out of time? We are out of time. I've got to go, otherwise we get booted off air. I'm very, very sorry about all of this, but there we go. We'll have to get you back on. Thank you very much, though. Much appreciated.
You're welcome,
and appreciate you coming into the studio. All right, take care. Right, okay, fantastic. I enjoyed that, actually. Ed Winter's there, who goes by Earthling Ed and is a vegan actor.
I don't think... is it...
To this, right, I've got loads more coming your way, but as we just said, I'm out of time, so I'll see you in the next hour.
Yeah, so he says like, oh, yeah, I'll have you back on again. I think the translation of that is, I'm never having you back on again. You are too good. No, I don't know. Maybe he's being honest. That was great. And I think the interviewer was fine. Ed did a great job. That's the best I've ever seen Ed, actually. I think that's prime Ed. That's Ed Premium. That's Ed Premium right there. Totally, really solid performance by him. I literally, when I'm watching from here, sat in my, not so comfy chair, I'm usually being hypercritical because I can be hypercritical, can't I? I'm sat here uncomfortable and I can look at it and I can analyze and I can watch for things that don't seem right. And I can tell you guys, yeah, this wasn't really cool. I don't like how this went down. Here's why. I just watched that. I have no notes, nothing. Ed was fucking perfect. Absolutely banging, spot on. I could give him no advice. If he came out of that interview and was like, hey, David, what do you think I could have done better? And I just said, I have no idea. You nailed it so well. I don't think you could have done anything better. Nothing. I've got nothing, no critiques, no constructive criticism at all. Do that in every fucking TV interview you have. It is banging. Well done, mate. Nailed it. Nailed it. Ed Premium right there. That's what we're going to have from now on. Whenever we see a good Earthling Ed video, we're going to call it Ed Premium. And that's what it's going to be. That's when it's like the seal of approval. The Ed Premium, for sure. I saw somebody else post something funny. What was it? I don't know. I lost it in the comments. You guys having some fun there. But Ed Premium is what we want to look for from now on, for sure. All right, guys. We've got one more video to take a look at. Would you like to take a look at it? It's a comedy video. It's not going to top Ed Premium, but we can still react to it. And as it's a comedy video, I'm going to try not to be too judgmental of it, because when you get judgmental of comedy, you look like a bit of a twat. Let's be honest, right? And I've made that mistake before, I think, where I've taken something that was like comedy a bit too seriously, and I've turned out like if you're watching a comedian and you get angry or you make it serious, even if you're right, you're still a bit of a twat, aren't you? Like, I think we need to, if it's not funny, it's not funny. But if it is funny and it mocks vegans, I think it's important just to laugh it off and be like, fuck it. Like, and I think this kind of comes into that. There are a few points in it that I want to mention, but aside from that, I think it's quite an interesting take on PETA. So basically, this is it says vegan can't compete with how annoying people are now. And this is from Ryan Long, and it is roasting vegans and specifically PETA. So to warn you guys, but it is also kind of funny. So let's watch it and see what you think.
Eating meat make you feel like a big man?
Okay, let's go back.
Eating meat make you feel like a big man? Hey, we're just wondering if you're one of those sickos that eats meat and if we could talk to you about that. We want people to go to jail for life if they have so much as a hot dog. With how annoying everyone's got on the internet in the last few years, it's almost like everyone forgot that we were the original annoying people. Do you guys mind if I annoy you for a little bit? Tweeting very inflammatory stuff. Hey, just letting you know that if you go to our Twitter, there's a lot of stuff that'll enrage you there. Probably want to quote tweet us. Check it out. We used to throw blood on people like you. You know, it's all race and gender these days, you know? Oh, sorry about that. Just a lot more annoying stuff than just getting in your way if you go to our Twitter. I've been trying to get with the trends of telling people to replace words with other words. We just tweeted a whole bunch of animal names that we want you to stop using. We do all caps, retweet if you agree, stuff like that. You'll hate it. No one's even scared of us anymore. I got like
the bit that he mentioned where he said it's all like gender stuff now, and the original people that everyone was fighting about was the PETA and the vegans. He's not wrong. I mean, do you remember back in the day, not that long ago, when PETA was the thing that everyone was talking about? Like, all social media was, oh, fuck PETA and all this different stuff. It was like, really, they were really, really the thing that like everyone covered and everyone hated. So it's one thing that this Ryan Long's good at. He's really good at spotting these things in society. He's very good at observational comedy. Like he watches and looks at stuff, and he must have looked and been like, "Oh, everyone's talking about gender and the culture war is all about that." And I bet he's thought, "What did people hate before that? Like, what were people really riled up about before all of this was the thing that everyone was like arguing about and stuff?" And PETA was pretty fucking hated. People were arguing about that. Oh, let's do like a video, you know. So I appreciate the thought process that went into it, and it's quite a funny thing. PETA actually responded to it, by the way. They retweeted it or something, or tweeted back at him, and to be fair, it wasn't a very good response. They could have done something funnier, but yeah.
like 5 retweets when I was waging war on seeing eye dogs. This is sort of my area where I'm annoying people, if you don't mind. I celebrated Steve Irwin's death. 40 retweets. Supposed to go in here, but you're gonna have to use that other door. A little bit inconvenient for you. Oh, you're supposed to go in this area right here, but they've blocked it off, so I probably can't do that either. So guess maybe just call it a day. Remember when they wanted women to go on sex strike for anyone who voted wrong? I wonder if anyone did that first. These new kids don't know the first thing about being offended. Did you know of any places that have a barbecue around here, like that maybe I could disrupt? If there's maybe like a wedding where they're serving meat publicly, that I could go and kind of wreck that whole thing? Love to boycott this place. If I could get an internet mob going to save my life these days. Maybe tweet that you don't like me or something. All these politicians trying to be hypocrites now. It's like, how about killing a bunch of animals at PETA's own shelter for animals? If you can
So that, I did want to comment on that, like, oh, like, I don't even understand why that bit was in there about them killing their own shelter animals. But if you want to dig deep into that, there is a video made by a guy, Peace, by Reese, and he did a video about PETA. I highly recommend you watch it if you want to learn more about this whole accusation that PETA kills animals. Very interesting video that he made. I'm just going to get you the link to it now so you guys can check it out, because it's not true, or like it's been true for in some very specific circumstance that were some. Look, there's a lot to talk about. Here's the link. It highly recommend you watch that. Brilliant video. It's 22 minutes long, which is why I've just given you like a very quick summary of it. But I recommend watching the whole 22 minutes about this PETA kills animals, accusation, because it's not entirely all it seems to be, as of course it wouldn't be. Whenever there's any accusations levied against vegan groups and animal rights groups and vegans and animal rights people, chances are that it's not entirely the truth, that there's something else to it. And this is the case with that. So check that out.
Just trying to be hypocrites now. It's like, how about killing a bunch of animals at PETA's own shelter for animals? If you can maybe like just get madder. I didn't bring any like blood to throw or anything like that, but if you could just.
I have to get it trained. I'm trying.
Just doing a quick petition to get meat banned from New York.
That's unrealistic.
If someone wants to go to Jersey and have a burger, they're welcome to do that, but just in the downtown core.
You're not going to eliminate meat in New York.
Right now we have one email, so if we get two, that we're on our way. People used to fear us. Nowadays, everybody want to tweet like they got something annoying, but they just copy us when they move their fingers, and motherfuckers act like they forgot about PETA.
Oh my God. So yeah, I just thought that was, honestly, like, it could have been really brutal. It could have been really mean against vegans. It could have been a full anti-vegan comedy skit. But instead, I didn't even think it was that anti-vegan. I just thought it was like a funny satirical version of what we do on the street when we're out flyering, or when, I don't know, trying to interview people or whatever. And of course, what we do is serious. And I don't necessarily see any problem with like kind of mocking it for a silly video. It's like, it's not the end of the world. Like, for example, I've done it. Like, I've gone out as pretending to be an anti-vegan to both mock but also come up with a good message. So I think it's like on that cusp of like, it's okay to laugh at ourselves and it's not doing any harm. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. It would be funnier if the guy was actually a vegan comedian and he was doing it as like a self-deprecating thing. It's kind of shitty that he is someone who actually, goes and pays for animals to be put through all that. At least I don't think he's a vegan anyway. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I thought it was quite funny. And mostly harmless as well. So you should definitely check that out, by the way. The Peace with Reese video about PETA, please check that out. If you're a PETA hater because of the accusations about them killing animals, go and check that out. You'll probably feel a bit better after it, and you might like PETA a bit more. Guys, a little announcement for you then. I potentially may not be doing live streams for a little while. I've got some things I need to get taken care of. I won't be available for a little while, potentially for streaming. I don't know if it's 100% or not yet, which is why I'm saying maybe, but chances are you won't see me streaming potentially for a couple of weeks. I'll do my best to make sure that, to try and make it happen, but just FYI, okay? It's going to depend on a couple of things that are going on over here, but just know that the things that are going on are very good, okay? It's good things that are happening that are pulling me away from streaming, all right? I promise. Although there will be videos. I've got an interview with Captain Paul Watson coming up I've got a funny short and a funny video coming up. I've got the Face the Facts Friday will still come. Don't worry, guys, not going anywhere. I'll be making videos. I'll be making some clips from this live stream and putting those out. There's going to be content. It's just I can't commit to you right now that I can get on stream because of some limitations and stuff like that, okay? Don't want to get into too much detail for some reasons. All this will become clear eventually, guys. But for now, I need to be a little bit hush-hush on some stuff. But just trust me that it's good, all right? Everything's good. All good shit, no problems, no negative stuff, all good, all right? You've been awesome today, guys. Enjoyed this stream. I hope you enjoyed it too. Remember, if you enjoy my streams, if you want to become a member of this team and help me do more of this stuff, both online and offline as well, the other stuff I've got going on, the other animal rights projects, if you want to support all of this, then please do consider joining the Ram Fam here on the YouTube memberships team and or the Patreon team where you can DM with me, which actually a couple people did join recently, the Patreon team. I'll tell you who. I might start doing this, like name a couple people so to give you some give some whoop whoops. So Vegan for Kindness, remember Vegan for Kindness, who we reacted to the other day? He joined the stream. He joined the Patreon team. We have Nadia who joined, PETA, Samira joined recently, and Amanda. So if you guys are here, well, you're fucking legends. Welcome to the Patreon team. You're in my DMs. I love that. So yeah, I love being in DMs with you. So get over to the Patreon and join up, and then we can chat in DMs about whatever you want to chat about, right, guys? Because that's what you get. Because I'm just great like that. Okay, you join my Patreon team, I DM with you because you're legends. Thanks, Hexproof Anarchist, for the closing super chat, the final super chat. You're legend. So, guys, do me a favor, keep calling out that BS, and I'll catch you all in the next one.